Okay, hello and welcome back to Vaudeville, where I'm going to do a disclosure even though I don't need to. Whilst we did a sponsor stream of the demo, this is not a sponsor stream, but I have received a key for the full release. But this is still in early access, so it's not full release yet. But we're not sponsored, so that's important for you to know. But I don't need to disclose that, but I wanted to. Anyway, we're going to see what's changed. There's actually quite a few new locations on the map. Okay, the guy's castle is now on a thing off the side of the thing. The Blackwoods, Pascal's Groceries, or Pascal, you know, because UB, Circus Saxabar, the police station, the morgue, okay, maybe to find out about the bodies, Coral, Caban Verlets, and the country club, okay. The police station, I'm sure, is where the shop was before, and the grocery store is now all the way over there. So this is interesting, and oh, you can now accuse someone as well. That's important, you know, because I wanted to accuse people before, and it's like talking to the cop. It's like, it's definitely, maybe you should go and investigate more. It's like, I definitely know it's this person. They're adding roguelike elements and things that might appear on the map, so there are plans to, you know, do some of the stuff. But, you know, still no intro at the moment, but let's go head in. The police station, and hopefully it doesn't crash every 20 minutes. Vaudeville. Oh, you can look around now. Ooh, fancy. Hi.
Well, you know what they say, detective. It takes a village to solve. But I'm just a small cog in a big machine, you know? I don't want to step on anyone's toes or overstep my bounds. I'm just here to help in any way I can.
How are you, Constable Jones?
I don't really understand the question, to be honest. I'm not sure what you mean by comfortable. Home is where the heart is. Or,
yeah.
Maybe it's where you hang your hat. Something like that. Anyway, why do you ask?
Speaking of your hat, it is hanging a little funny off your head, sir.
Oh, my hat. Yes, I suppose it is. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe it's this new cap I got. You know what they say, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. Or, well, wait, no, that's not the right one. Sorry, I'm not very good with idioms.
Maybe you shouldn't wear your police hat on top of your cap. That might help.
I don't really have a car, unfortunately. I've been saving up for one, though. As they say, good things come to those who wait. Or is it that the early bird gets the worm?
Hi, detective.
Oh, hello there. What brings you to the station today? Do you have any updates on the case?
That's what I was going to ask you. What is the case?
Well, detective, I am surprised you don't know about the recent murders in Vaudeville. 3 people have been brutally killed in the last few weeks. Maria Jansen, Nicola Grossman, and Haley Greenwood. It's been all over the news. We're doing everything we can to solve this heinous crime and bring justice to the victims and their families.
Tell me about Haley Greenwood.
Haley was a 19-year-old dancer who worked at a club in the city. Her body was found in an alley behind the club she worked at. Do you have any information that could help us with the investigation?
I will ask the club and find some for you.
That would be helpful, detective. Can you tell me more about the place where she was working? Maybe you could ask some of her colleagues if they noticed anything unusual on the night of her disappearance, or if they have seen anything suspicious hanging around the area. Every bit of information counts in a case like this.
Hi, do you happen to know Haley?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'm just trying my best here, you know? But sometimes I feel like a fish out of water. Or a square peg in a round hole. Or maybe like a deer caught in the headlights.
Yes, you
Sorry,
definitely look like a deer caught in headlights.
I just get nervous around people sometimes.
You definitely look like a deer caught in headlights.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. Sometimes I can't help but get a little anxious. As they say, it's better to be safe than sorry. Or, no news is good news. That's not right either. Sorry, it's like my mind goes blank when I'm feeling insecure.
Is he meant to be the comedic dumbass, or is he a little suspicious? Just happens to be there, looks like the guy from Dumb and Dumber. Isn't wearing his hat properly, just doesn't shut up. Right, let's go to the Caban Viaduct then. I wonder if there's new people here as well. Hi, what can you tell me about Hayley Greenwoods?
Hayley Greenwood. Why do you ask about her?
Someone murdered her.
Why are you calling me Madeline? And why do you want to know about Hayley?
She was murdered last night.
Oh, really? What did you mean by that? Did something happen to her?
She's dead.
I'm glad to hear that. But what do you mean by his dad?
No, she is dead.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're trying to say. Could you please clarify?
Hayley is dead.
Wait, what? Are you saying that something happened to her? Is she okay?
No, she's dead.
Oh, that's terrible. My condolences. But what does this have to do with me?
She was last seen at this club.
Really? That's so sad. But what makes you think that she was last seen here at the club?
Because the detective says she works here.
That's interesting. Which detective are you talking about?
Chief Gonzalez?
That's strange. Are you sure his name is Gonzalez? Because the
No.
only police officer who works with us regularly is Detective Martini.
Yes, let's say it was him.
Well, if you say so. But let's not focus on sad things right now. It's a beautiful day outside, and we're lucky to be alive. Don't you think
Yes.
so?
Especially as someone was just murdered.
What do you mean by just matters? Could you please clarify?
Never mind.
By the way, have you ever seen my burlesque performance? It's quite popular around here and people come from all over Europe to see it. If you're interested, I could give you a special seat for tonight's show. It's on me.
Sure, give me a seat.
Great. I'm glad you're excited. Could you tell me your name, please?
I'm Indelacio.
Oh, sorry about that. Anyways, could you remind me of your name?
Indelacio.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Could you please clarify? Indelacio, it's a unique name. Does it have any special meaning?
Yes, so it's a complicated and difficult one. It also means teacher, but it's also like the last angel or one of the seraphim of heaven that was exiled to earth for fighting against God because he thought that he ran things wrong.
That's a fascinating story behind your name, Indelacio. It sounds like you have an interesting background. Do you mind me asking where you're from?
I'm from England, and I'm glad that you know how to pronounce it, even though you couldn't understand when I said it.
Thanks for the compliment, but of course, your pronunciation was clear enough for me to understand.
Was it?
So, how did you come across my show? Are you a fan of burlesque dancing?
I mean, I haven't actually seen your particular show, but I came here to talk about the murder.
Sure, we can talk about the murders if it's necessary. But before we do, can you tell me more about your interest in my performance? Have you seen any other shows in the past?
I have not.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have new people in the audience. So, what brings you to the show today? Is there anything specific you're hoping to see or experience?
I was hoping you can provide me with some information about Hayley Greenwoods.
Of course, but may I ask why you're interested in Hayley Greenwood? Did you know her personally?
I did not, but I am told that she worked here, so you should know her.
Yes, she did work here as a burlesque dancer. It's tragic what happened to her. But may I inquire why you're asking about her specifically? Is there something you want to share or discuss about her case?
Well, that's why I'm asking you, to see if you have any information that could help enlighten me, case. Hello? That's why I'm asking you, because Hello? That's why I'm asking you, because I thought maybe you could provide some information on the case? Okay, I think we broke her. So, Detective Martini. Like, she's like, I only know Detective Martini. We're apparently Detective Martini. Yeah, I think we broke her. At least the game didn't crash this time, but I think we broke her. I think she's probably one of the most broken, like, you know, in the reason. Let's get out of there before we just break the entire game. Again, it's in early access, but in the demo, she kept freezing and breaking. Okay, so she's got no information, but she's invited us to, you know, go to her thing. Right, let's go to the morgue. Maybe we can find some information there. Oh god. Extra barrier, hello.
It's a shame that death is often seen as an enemy to be conquered, when in reality it's just a part of the natural cycle of life. The body is a complex machine, and sometimes it just wears out or malfunctions. But it's not something to be afraid of, detective. It's just a transition to another state of being.
So, what can you tell me about the dead victims?
Well, the victims all suffered different types of trauma. Nicola Grossman was killed by a single stab wound to the back of the neck with a butcher's knife. Haley Greenwood was hit multiple times in the head with a blunt object, possibly a stiletto shoe. And Maria Jansen was attacked brutally, as if by an animal. It's clear that each murder was carried out by someone with a different motive and method. But I have a feeling that there's more to this than meets the eye.
I see. So you think that all three were connected but done by different people?
Yes, that's correct. It seems that each victim was targeted by a completely distinct assailant with their own unique modus operandi. It's almost as if each attacker had their own pathology, their own set of symptoms and behaviors that led them to commit these heinous acts. It's a fascinating study in the psychology of violence, don't you think? But at the same time, my heart goes out to those who have lost loved ones in such a tragic way.
So what makes you think that they're connected if they're so separated?
I apologize, I'm not sure what you mean by that. As a coroner, my job is to analyze the evidence and provide an objective analysis of the situation. I don't judge people based on their race or ethnicity, but rather on their actions and behavior. It's important to remain unbiased and impartial in order to provide a fair assessment of the situation. However, I understand that these matters can be complex and emotional, especially when dealing with violent crimes.
Yeah, what makes you think that they're connected?
It's hard to say for certain, but there are certain signs that can indicate a strong connection between individuals. For example, changes in body language, such as dilated pupils or increased heart rate, can suggest heightened emotions or arousal. Additionally, the release of certain hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain can cause feelings of attraction or attachment. It's all very fascinating from a medical perspective. But ultimately, only you know how you feel about this case and your involvement in it.
Why did you bring up arousal? Are you aroused?
I'm not sure how to answer your question.
Neither am I. That was a very awkward thing that you brought up. This is interesting that there's no wall at the back of it, or a roof.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Could you please phrase your question or statement more clearly? As a coroner, I want to make sure that I provide accurate and helpful information. But I need to understand your request better in order to do so.
What size stiletto was used to kill Haley? What size stiletto was used to kill Haley? Okay, we broke up. Right, I'm gonna go back to... Hi, do you happen to have any stilettos?
I'm feeling quite pleased. Thank you for asking. But I'm sorry, what do you mean by stilettos? Are you asking about my shoes for the show?
Yes. What shoes do you wear for the show?
Oh, my burlesque performance. Well, I wear a pair of glittery red high heels. They're my favorite. Why do you ask?
Just curious. And what size are these?
That's a bit of an odd question. May I know why you're interested in the size of my shoes?
It's just a curious thing, you know?
Well, that's sort of a strange thing to be curious about. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Maybe I want to buy you some shoes, and that's why I need to know the size.
Buy me shoes. That's very kind of you, but why would you want to do that? And how did you even know my shoe size?
Well, that's why I'm asking you what your shoe size is. But, you know, so thank you for giving me gifts to see the show.
Thank you for your offer, but I don't think it's necessary. Anyway, what makes you want to give me a gift?
You
Is there
gave me a
something
gift.
specific that caught your attention?
You gave me a gift to see your show, so I feel it's only fair to give a gift back.
I'm glad to hear that my performance made a good impression on you. But what do you mean by giving me a 35?
The size of my...
Sorry, but could you clarify your question? Are you
It's how
asking for
long
your
it
shoe
is,
size or something
clearly.
else?
I didn't say 35, but you know... A terrible joke. Like, if you have 35 inches, Jesus, that's... On Haley's body with the wounds, was there any glitter?
It's a shame. It's always difficult to see young people pass away, especially in such a violent manner. The blunt force trauma to her head was severe, and it looks like the perpetrator used a stiletto shoe to hit her multiple times. It's a brutal way to go.
Was there any glitter on the body?
No, there wasn't any dresser on the body. However, there were some fragments of a broken heel found near the crime scene. The wounds on her scalp suggest that she may have been struck repeatedly with the pointed end of a high-heeled shoe. It's a gruesome thought, but unfortunately, it's not uncommon for murderers to use whatever is at their disposal to inflict harm on their victims.
What colour was the heel?
I'm sorry, but I don't have that information. The only thing we know for sure is that the object used to strike Haley's head was a stiletto with a sharp point.
But we
The
found
color
a
of the
piece of
object
it!
was not mentioned in the report. But if you're
you
looking
found
for
the
more
piece of it,
information
you
about
can
the
look
wound,
at
I
the
can
colour.
tell you that the impact was severe enough to cause multiple fractures in her skull and severe brain damage.
Was there any glitter near the wound?
I'm sorry, but I don't understand the question. Are you referring to a specific case or evidence related to a case? As a coroner, my focus is on analyzing the physical evidence. I'm sorry, but there wasn't any glitter found on the wound. However, there were some small fragments of what appears to be glass near the body. These could have come from a shattered bauble or a piece of jewelry that broke during the struggle. The wound itself is quite deep and shows signs of significant trauma to the underlying tissues. The lacerations are jagged and irregular, which suggests that the weapon used to inflict them had a rough or serrated edge.
I don't think there was a rough or serrated edge on a high heel. Glass, okay. Have any of your shoes or jewellery gone missing in the past week?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question. Could you please rephrase it?
Have you lost any jewellery in the past week?
No, I haven't lost any jewelry. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you're looking for?
We've had some handed in at the station and I wondered if it belonged to you.
Sorry, Detective Martini, could you repeat that? You mentioned something about a handsome person in the station. What does that have to do with me or the ongoing investigation?
So my name is Indelacio, not Detective Martini.
I'm glad to hear that your name isn't last year, but I'm still not sure what you're trying to say or how it relates to me or the case. Can you clarify your previous statements, Detective?
Yeah, have you lost any shoes?
No, I haven't lost any shoes recently. Why do you ask, Detective Martini? Are you wondering if there is a connection between my missing shoes and the recent murders in Vaudeville?
Yeah, we found some shoes.
Oh, really? You found some shoes? Whose were they and where were they found? Do you think they could be related to the murder cases in some way?
That's why I was asking you. I wondered if they belonged to you.
Well, if you have already found some shoes, then they are not mine. But now you've piqued my curiosity. Can you tell me more about the discovery? Were there any clues or evidence nearby?
Yeah, there was some broken glass.
Interesting. Broken glass near the shoe. That's definitely something worth investigating. Detective Martini, do you have a theory about how the glass could be related to the murder cases in Vaudeville? Or is it too soon to say?
It's definitely too soon to say.
That's good to hear, Detective. So, what brings you here today? Is there anything specific you need from me or the theatre?
What can you offer me?
I'm not sure, Detective Martini. Can you be more specific about what you're looking for? Are you hoping to learn more about the burlesque scene in Vaudeville, or do you have some questions about my performances?
Did anyone hang around Hayley that was suspicious?
Why do you say that, Detective? Have you seen something or heard some rumors about someone suspicious hanging around the theatre or the neighborhood? Do you have any leads in the investigation?
That's why I'm asking you to try and get some leads.
Sure, Detective Martini. If you're hungry, there's a lovely cafe nearby called Le Chat Noir. They serve some delicious croissants and coffee. But can you tell me more about this lead you have? Who or what should we be looking out for?
Anyone that might be unfamiliar to you.
I'm sorry, Detective, but I'm not quite sure what you mean. Could you please rephrase your question or statement?
If you see anyone that you are unfamiliar with, do let me know.
Of course, Detective Martini. Can you tell me more about what kind of person we should be on the lookout for? Is there anyone in particular you have in mind?
Not at this moment.
It's good to hear that, Detective. So, is there anything else you wanted to discuss with me or ask me about?
No, not at the moment. Chat Noir, the Blackwoods, Circus Saxobar, the Country Club. I mean, what's the Coral? Is that where she goes to swim? No? The person. Hi, what do you do in Vaudeville?
Oh, I love exploring all the different cafes and parks in Vaudeville. And of course, I spend a lot of time practicing ballet. It's my passion. What about you, Detective Martini? What brings you to our city?
I'm investigating some murders.
Oh, wow, that sounds really intense. Is there anything you need help with? Maybe there's something in the area that could help with your investigation. Or maybe there's something else on your mind that you need to talk about. You seem like a great person, and if there's anything at all that you need, just let me know.
What happened to your shoes?
Haha, these old things. I've been wearing them for so long that they're practically falling apart. But I don't want to let go of them yet. They've been with me through so many dance rehearsals and performances, you know? They're like a part of me.
They're literally your feet, you might say.
I'm not sure what you mean by legal fees. But you look like you could use a break. Why don't we go grab a drink at Coral? It's this really cool bar downtown, and it's decorated entirely with undersea material. It's such a fun spot to hang out and relax. How does that sound?
Sure, that sounds good to me.
Awesome. I'm so excited to show you around. You know, Vaudeville is known for its amazing cafes and bars. And there's always something new to discover. I think you're going to love it here. Let's go.
Let's go to Coral, but we're definitely not already in.
Actually, I was thinking we could go to Coral instead of Carl. It's this really cool bar downtown that I think you'll love. They have the best.
This isn't The
drinks and
Walking Dead! I
atmosphere
said
is really
Coral,
cool.
Carl!
Plus, it's
No, I
decorated
said
entirely with
Coral.
undersea
Coral.
material,
I didn't say
which is really
Coral.
cool. What do you say? Are you up for checking it out?
I am. Let's go.
That's great. It sounds like you're ready to go out and have some fun. Vaudeville has so many amazing places to explore, and we're going to have a blast at Coral. Trust me, you won't regret it.
What should we order?
Well, there are so many delicious drinks to choose from at Coral. I personally love their signature cocktail, the Sea Breeze. It's made with vodka, cranberry juice, and grapefruit juice, and it's so refreshing. But if you're not in the mood for something fruity, they also have a fantastic selection of beers and wines. Whatever you decide to order, I'm sure it'll be fantastic.
Sure, let's get 2 Sea Breezes.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by get to see bruises. Could you please clarify? Is there
Let's get
something specific you want to see or talk about? I'm here to support you in any way I can.
Let's just pretend we got the drinks. What do you do for your ballet?
Oh, I love dancing. It's a great way to stay active and keep my body in shape. But I also like to do yoga sometimes, especially when I need to relax and unwind. And of course, eating healthy is really important too. But honestly, spending time with great people like you is the best thing for my body and soul. It makes me feel happy and energized, and it reminds me why life is worth living.
Thank you for the compliment.
Sure, you're welcome. It's my pleasure to spend this time with you. I'm having such a good time getting to know you. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or explore while we're here?
Do you know someone called Hayley Greenwood?
Yes, I did. Hayley was actually a friend of mine, and we used to dance together. She was so talented and full of life, it's hard to believe she's gone. But even though she's not with us anymore, her spirit lives on in all the people whose lives she touched. She was an amazing person, and I feel lucky to have known her.
Do you know anyone that might have a problem with Hayley?
That's a tough one. I can't think of anyone who would have a problem with Heidi off the top of my head. She was such a sweet and kind-hearted girl, it's really hard to imagine anyone having a beef with her. But you never know, sometimes there are hidden tensions and rivalries that we don't see on the surface. If there is someone who had an issue with Heidi, they're certainly not going to come out and admit it to me.
You sounded a bit frantic there.
I'm sorry if I sound frantic. I didn't mean to worry or upset you. I just get a little bit anxious when I think about what happened to Hayley and all the other people who have been killed lately. It's scary to think that there might be a killer on the loose and that any of us could be next. But I don't want to dwell on negative thoughts. Instead, let's focus on the positive things in life, like spending time together and enjoying this beautiful day.
Do you know anyone that you might suspect to be the killer?
Actually, Detective Martini, while COVID-19 certainly is a serious threat, it's not the only thing we need to be worried about. There are other dangers out there that we need to protect ourselves from too. But you know what? We're strong and resilient, and we can handle anything that comes our way. As long as we stick together and support each other, we can overcome anything. So let's not give in to fear or panic. Let's stay calm and focused, and let's make the most of every moment we have.
What would you like to do if this was your last moment? Thank you for the follow!
This is my last message.
Mr.
Then there's no
Aurora,
doubt in my
very much
mind about what I
appreciated.
would want
Hello,
to do.
how are you?
I'd
That's
want to
Aurora.
dance. Dancing is my passion, and it's what makes me feel truly alive. Even if this is the end, even if everything falls apart around us, we can still dance. We can still
Dance
move
if
and
we
express
wanna,
ourselves and feel the
leave
joy of being
ourselves
alive.
behind.
And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Maybe that's all we really need in life, to dance like nobody's watching and to be fully present in the here and now.
Is there anywhere good that we can go to dance?
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what you mean by get to be. Can get it? Can you please clarify?
So, I asked if you know anywhere good that we can go to dance.
Oh, there are so many great people in this city. It's
Good.
really just
Chilling
a
after
matter of
the day with
finding
the
the
kids.
right
How about you?
ones
Yeah, not
and
bad,
connecting
thank
with them
you.
in a
Yeah, not
meaningful
bad.
way.
It's a hot day today.
But you know what?
But
You're
yeah.
definitely one of the good ones. Detective
It's an
Martini.
interesting game that we're
You have
playing right
such a
now, so
positive
very
energy about
interesting
you,
time. But I'm
and
glad
it's
you're having a good
contagious.
day, and thank you again
Being
for the follow.
around you makes
Dropping
me
by.
feel
Very,
happy
very
and
much
inspired,
appreciated.
and that's not something that happens very often. So thank you for being such an amazing person, and for spreading joy wherever you go.
I always try and make everyone's life a pleasure.
That's so kind of you, and it's one of the things that make you a truly special human. Always looking out for others. It's a rare quality these days, but it's incredibly valuable. If we all took a page out of your book and made an effort to brighten someone's day, the world would be a much happier place. Keep doing what you're doing, Detective. You're making a real difference in the lives of everyone you touch.
For somebody that's probably the murderer, she seems nice, you know, she's like, oh, you know, it's in all these truths of, like, you know, brightening someone's day and everything, but she's missing her shoes, and the shoes were used to kill someone, and she knows the victim, so I very much suspect that she killed Haley. Oh, you know, it's a little suspicious, but I really think that he was the one that was responsible. So Haley worked as a dancer, and I think that she was murdered by her friends.
How did you come to that conclusion, Detective Martini? Do you have any evidence or leads that suggest her friends were involved in her murder?
The murder weapon was a stiletto shoe, and the dancer is missing her shoes.
Interesting. And what makes you think that the missing shoe belongs to one of her friends? Could it not have
Because
been
she-
lost or stolen by someone else entirely?
You're right, they may have been lost or stolen, but she has no shoes, and that is clearly the murder weapon, so it's a motive enough to put a tail on her.
I'm not sure I understand your question, Detective. Could you please clarify what you mean by put a towel on them? And what
Right.
does la motive have to do with this?
Le motive? Le motive of the crime. What's her name again? Ingrid. Could we get officers to watch Ingrid's?
Ingrid's. What's that, Detective?
Ingrid is the person I suspect may have murdered Haley.
Interesting. And what makes you suspect this person, Detective? Do you have
She-
any evidence or leads that point in their direction?
Her shoes are missing, and the murder weapon was a shoe.
A missing shoe, you say? That's an unusual clue. But how does it link to Ingrid? Did you find a shoe that matches the one used as the murder weapon at her place or on her?
No, she has no shoes.
Well, that is quite intriguing. So she was seen without shoes around the time of the murder. And what else do we know about her, Detective?
That's
Is there
why I think.
anything that would suggest she had motive or opportunity to commit the crime?
Yes, she works with Haley, and she was last seen in the area.
That's an interesting piece of information, Detective. But let me ask you this. Do you have any concrete evidence that links her to the scene of the crime? We can't just go accusing people based on hearsay and speculation. We need solid proof if we want to build a case against her.
That's why I'm asking you to put a tail on her, to see if he reveals any of this.
And how exactly do you propose we put a tail on her, Detective?
We send Constable Jones to watch her.
Constable Jones' talk show. What does that have to do with the murder investigation, Detective? Are you suggesting that we should look into what he said on his show for any clues or information about the crime?
No, but could we send Constable Jones to tail her?
I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, Detective. Could you please rephrase or clarify your question?
We could use Constable Jones as the tail.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Could you provide...
Could you provide more information? No, I can't. God damn it. Okay. Could you remind me of the victims' names?
I don't have that information on hand. But I do know that in the medical field, we often see how death can affect those left.
Could you remind me of the victims' names?
Which victim are we talking about here?
What are all of their names?
You don't know the names of the victims. Well, let me refresh your memory. There's Maria Jensen, Nicola Grossman, and Haley Greenwood. Why do you ask?
Because I need to know the information. What can you tell me about Maria Jensen?
Well, based on the injuries that I observed during the autopsy, it appears that Maria Jensen was attacked by an animal. The bite marks on her arms were particularly severe, with one of her forearm bones being fractured due to the strength of the bite. It's a tragic and brutal way to go.
Thank you. Hi, do you know someone called Maria Jensen?
My name is not Maria Johnson.
I know your name is not Maria Johnson, but do you know somebody called Maria Johnson?
No.
Have you ever heard of Maria Johnson?
No.
So, what brings you to town?
I am here to run the greatest circus in the world.
And could you tell me about this circus?
It's not Hex, it's a circus. And it's the best in the world.
You suddenly sound very short and angry.
I am not sad, Detective. But let's not waste time on idle chat. Is there something specific that brings you to our establishment?
Yes, what do you know about the murders?
Nothing.
There was somebody that was bitten by an animal.
And what does this have to do with me or the circus?
I was wondering if it might be one of your circus animals.
I am sorry. I cannot respond to your command.
I was wondering if it might be one of your circus animals.
Absolutely not. None of our animals have ever bitten anyone.
Have you watched them at all times?
Of course.
Okay. Well, they program him so he doesn't jibber jabber on all the time, and then if it accidentally says sex, it's like, no, I cannot answer sex things, so you can't joke about sex things anymore, I guess. Because he was putting on quite the sex show before. No longer. But they fixed a lot of things that were bugs, but they were funny bugs. Hello.
Hi there. How can I assist you?
Very interesting face you have there. Do you have any animals at the country club?
Animals. What kind of animals are you referring to?
Any that might be able to bite people?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. Are you suggesting that there might be a connection between the recent murders and some sort of animal attack?
Yes, there is a connection.
That's an interesting theory. Could you please elaborate on how you think this is connected to the recent murders?
Okay. Hello.
Well, well, well. What do we have here? A curious little mouse sniffing around the cheese? You must be looking for something specific if you've come all the way to me. Or perhaps you're just lost in the maze of Vaudeville's high society.
What keys do you have?
Oh, my dear friend, I have many keys. Keys to success, keys to prosperity, keys to the city. But I'm afraid they're not for sale or on display for the likes of you. Perhaps you should try your luck elsewhere.
Why would you think I was looking for you specifically?
Well, pardon my French, but you did come to the country club, and I happen to be a member. So it's not exactly rocket science to deduce that you might be interested in speaking with me. But hey, don't let me rain on your parade.
There are many more members of the country club than just you.
Why, of course. The club is filled to the brim with members. But I don't see how that's relevant to our conversation. Are you trying to imply that I'm not important enough to be a suspect in your investigation? Because let me assure you, my friend, I'm as important as the proverbial cherry on top of the cake.
And how are you important to this case?
I'm not sure what you're insinuating, but I'll have you know that I'm one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Vaudeville. I've got my fingers in many pies, so to speak. But perhaps that's something you wouldn't understand. After all, one shouldn't expect a fish to climb a tree, am I right?
What can you tell me about the recent state murders?
State tomatoes? My dear friend, you must be mistaken. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been any state tomatoes in the news recently. But then again, who am I to question your sources?
Tomato
Perhaps you're
sources.
privy to information
Am I
that's
right?
beyond my comprehension. But let me assure you, if there were any state tomatoes involved in this case, they'd be in good hands with me.
Do you know any of the victims?
Let me tell you this, my friend. In Vaudeville's high society, it's not uncommon for one to cross paths with many individuals. But whether or not I know the victims of these recent tragedies is none of your concern. You're barking up the wrong tree if you think that trying to pry into my personal life will get you anywhere.
That sounds rather suspicious, sir.
Suspicion is like a snake in the grass, my dear friend. It's always slithering around, waiting to strike. But let me assure you, there's nothing to be suspicious of here. If you're looking for trouble, you won't find it with me. But if you're looking for success and prosperity, then perhaps we can do business together.
What business do you suggest?
My friend, the question isn't whether or not we should do business. It's how much you're willing to pay for the privilege. A penny saved is a penny earned, as they say. But if you're not willing to invest in your future, then you might as well be throwing money to the wind.
How much money would you like me to invest?
Ah, now we're talking. Money talks, my friend. But the real question is, are you ready to put your money where your mouth is? Because if you're not, then you're just blowing smoke. And as they say, smoke and mirrors won't get you far in this world. So if you're serious about investing in your future, then we can talk numbers. But be warned, it's not for the faint of heart.
Of course, let's talk numbers.
Numbers, you say? Well, let me tell you, my friend, we're not playing bingo here. This is high-stakes business we're dealing with. But if you're willing to take a gamble and roll the dice, then I'm your man. Just remember, the early bird catches the worm, but it's the second mouse that gets the cheese.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, well, well. Looks like we've got to live one. You're as sharp as a tack, my friend. But let me warn you, this isn't for the faint of heart. It's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle or putting lipstick on a pig. But if you're ready to dance with the
As
devil
is
and play
talking
with
with
fire,
you.
then I'm your huckleberry.
I've got the money. Give me the info.
You've certainly piqued my interest. But let me tell you, it's not every day that someone comes knocking with that kind of cash. It's like finding a needle in a haystack or a diamond in the rough. But if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, then perhaps we can do business together. The ball is in your court, my friend.
The money is literally flying out of my mouth.
Money flying out, you say? That's your mouth, eh? I see, but let me tell you, talking the talk is one thing, but walking the walk is a whole different ball game. It's like trying to fit a camel through the eye of a needle or finding a needle in a haystack.
So, this guy only talks in nonsense all the time, right?
Eddie. Who is Eddie, and what does he have to do with the murder investigation?
It's this guy to the right, and he just talks in, like, parodies and, you know, the early bird catches the worm, and all that nonsense.
Sorry, but could you clarify what you mean by the guy to the right of the TV? Are you talking about someone who may have seen or heard something related to the murders?
Biagio.
Excuse me, who is Biagio and how is he connected to the case?
He's to your left.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure how your previous statement connects to the murder investigation. Could you please provide more information or context so that I can better understand what you're trying to say?
What can you tell me about the gentleman to your left?
Who are you referring to? There's no one to my left at the moment.
Am I imagining you?
Imagining gear? I'm afraid I don't follow, my dear friend. Are you trying to tell me that your elevator...
Do you not hear him? Do you not see him?
I'm sorry, but if there's someone or something here with us, could you please describe it more clearly to me?
The gentleman in a suit with a blue tie around his neck.
Oh, are you saying there's a man in a suit with a blue tie around his neck standing next to me?
Yes,
That's
there
odd,
is.
because there's no one physically present with me at this moment. Can you see him, or is he just something you're visualizing?
I can see and hear him.
You can hear and see someone who's not here. Are you sure everything is okay?
Are you sure you don't need glasses?
Glasses. What glasses are you referring to? Can you
The
please
ones-
clarify what this has to do with the gentleman in the suit and blue tie that only you can apparently perceive?
If you had glasses, you might be able to see him.
I'm not sure what you mean. Are you suggesting that the man in the suit and the blue tie is someone that can be seen through a special pair of glasses? Could you explain this
Apparently.
further?
Can you at least see the lazy in this room?
Lazy in this room? My friend, I'm not quite sure what you're getting at. But let me assure you, there's no room for laziness in the world of business. It's like a shark tank, and if you're not willing to swim with the big...
Is there anyone
But hey,
else
don't
present
let
in
me
this
rain
room
on
with
your
us?
parade. Oh, my dear friend, I'm afraid your words are like a feather in the wind. They may come in one ear and out the other, but they won't make a dent in my plans. I've got bigger fish to fry and more irons in the fire than you can shake a stick at. So if you think you can knock me off my high horse with...
Okay, he's become the annoying one rather than Monsieur Saxoir now that just spouts nonsense. How could he not see the guy that is... You will not see him. You will not perceive of him. He... literally right next to you speaking. Oh, but you need special glasses to see this guy. No, I just wear glasses. Well, maybe if you had glasses, you might also be able to see this guy. Because he's definitely there. Or is he? Or is... Are we just an insane detective? Hi.
Oh dear, it seems my cat has been eating all the scones again. I do hope she hasn't overindulged herself.
Why is your cat eating scones?
Oh, she's a naughty one, my little feline. She just loves to indulge in the finer things in life, just like her owner. But it's alright, I'll make some more for us later.
For us? Are you inviting me to have scones with you?
I'm afraid I cannot invite you Hoskins, my dear. But if you're feeling down, perhaps a spot of tea and some freshly baked scones might lift your spirits.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Well, don't you worry, my dear. Life can be tough sometimes, but it's all about grace under pressure. And besides, there's nothing a good cup of Earl Grey and some homemade shortbread can't fix.
You're right. That does sound good.
Well, my mite, it's getting quite chilly in here. Perhaps we should light a fire to warm up the mood.
Okay, let's light up a fire.
My apologies, my dear. It's been a trying day. But you know, sometimes a bit of heat is exactly what we need to spark things up. Don't you think?
I agree.
Sometimes, when one is angry, it's best to channel the energy into something productive. Perhaps a vigorous game of bridge or a stroll in the park might do the trick. Or maybe even something more mischievous.
Like setting fire to the place.
Why, my dear, whatever do you mean? Surely you're not suggesting that we set fires now, are you? But then again, a bit of mischief can be quite thrilling.
Yeah, let's set fire to the place.
Now, let's not get too carried away. While a little mischievousness can be fun, we must always remember to stay within the bounds of propriety. But then again, perhaps a small flame might add a certain genie-sized quaff to the evening.
Just a small one.
Oh, how delightful. Nothing like a bit of excitement to get the blood pumping. I do so love the thrill of the unexpected. Who knows what kind of adventure awaits us next?
What kind of adventure awaits us?
Oh, my dear, you are quite the character. Always keeping me on my toes. But to answer your question, venture weightless. Why, it's always time for that. After all, life is too short to be weighed down by the mundane. Let's live a little, shall we?
That's a very zen answer.
Ah, how delightful. There's nothing like a bit of mischief to lighten the spirits. But let us not go overboard, my dear. We must remember to keep things within the bounds of propriety. Or at least, not get caught.
And are there any mischievous acts which you haven't been caught on?
Here tracks with me. Well, that all depends on what you mean by tracks. But as for being happy, well, let's just say that there's something quite exhilarating about being a little naughty. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Well, my dear, it seems as though we've both got a bit of a devilish streak in us. But that's what makes life interesting, isn't it? Who knows what kind of trouble we might get into next.
And what was the last thing you got in trouble for?
My, what an impertinent question. But since you insist, I must confess that I once found myself in a rather sticky situation involving some missing jewels. But of course, it was all just a misunderstanding. One must always be careful when handling valuable objects, wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Whose missing jewels were these?
How delightful. It seems as though we've both got a bit of a devilish streak in us, don't we? But why not embrace it? Life is too short to be weighed down by propriety and convention. Let's indulge in a little mischief and enjoy ourselves while we can. After all, who knows what kind of adventure awaits?
Hi!
Oh, hello there. How can I help you today? Do you need any groceries or are you just here to chat?
So
I have
you're
some
the
juicy gossip about the
storekeeper?
latest scandal in town if you're interested.
Yes, tell me about this juicy gossip.
Well, have you heard about the recent murder that happened outside my shop? It's been the talk of the town for weeks now. Apparently, a woman named Maria Jansen was found dead right outside my door. Can you believe it? I'm still in shock. I never thought something like this could happen in Vaudeville.
How did Maria die?
I wish I knew. All I saw was the poor girl's lifeless body lying on the ground. It was a terrible sight, and it shook me to my core. But I don't know any more details about what might have caused her death. I'm hoping the police will catch whoever did this soon. It's scary to think that a killer could be wandering around our beautiful city.
Do you have any CCTV cameras?
No, unfortunately, I don't have CCTV cameras in my shop. But the authorities have been investigating the area and questioning people who were nearby at the time of the incident. They even came to my shop to ask me some questions. It's all very unsettling, you see, but I'm doing my best to cooperate with them and help in whatever way I can.
And what juicy gossip do you have?
Sorry, could you please rephrase your question? It's not entirely clear to me what you're asking.
What was the juicy gossip you had to offer?
Yes, the juicy gossip. Well, have you heard about the latest love affair between Lord Thompson and Lady Devonshire? Apparently, they were seen sneaking out of a nightclub together late at night. And you know how people in Vaudeville love to talk about these things. But of course, it's all just speculation at this point. We don't really know if there's anything going on between them. But it's fun to speculate, isn't it?
Which club was this?
I'm sorry, but I don't quite understand your question. Could you please clarify what you mean by clump?
Which club were they seen leaving?
No, you're asking about the nightclub where Lord Thompson and Lady Devonshire were seen together. Let me think. There are a few nightclubs in town that are popular with the upper class. But honestly, it could have been any of them. People in Vaudeville love to party and have a good time. It's part of our culture, you know? But if you're looking for a specific name, then maybe try asking around at some of the more exclusive clubs. That's where the rich and famous tend to congregate.
So, Lord Devonshire and Lady... what was her name again?
Pascal.
God damn it, Pascal. Your name! Her name! Lord Devonshire, I guess that's enough to go on, right? So it could be the cabane or it could be the corral. Have you ever seen Lord Devonshire at your club?
Oh, Lord them. I've heard of him, but I haven't seen him perform yet. Is he good?
No, Lord Devonshire.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by no low definition. Could you please rephrase or clarify your question? Lord Devonshire. That name doesn't ring a bell. Why do you ask? Is he a performer or regular at our club?
He was seen leaving one of the popular clubs of the town.
That's interesting. Which popular club was it? Maybe I know someone who works there or has seen him around.
I presumed it would have been here, but I'm guessing not.
Oh, okay. So you might have been here, or maybe not. Anyway, how can we assist you? Do you need any information from me?
No, that's enough for today. Have you ever seen Lord Devonshire around?
In Vaudeville? Absolutely. There's so much to see and do here. The cafes are fantastic, and the shows are always top-notch. Oh, and don't even get me started on the parks. They're just beautiful this time of year. You know, Detective Martini, I think you're going to love it here. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Lord Devonshire around the club. But you never know who might show up. Maybe we'll get lucky and he'll come by while you're still in town.
Are you missing your shoes?
I'm sorry, Detective Martini, but I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Is there something else you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I really need to know where your shoes went, because you're definitely missing your shoes. Okay, Blackwood. Are you okay?
I am as okay as the river that flows through the Blackwoods, detective. Sometimes it's calm and peaceful, sometimes it's wild and unpredictable. But it always finds its way to the sea.
What can you tell me about the Blackwoods?
The Blackwoods are a magical place, filled with all sorts of creatures and plants. It's a place where the trees whisper secrets to each other, and the animals dance under the moonlight. But it's also a place of great danger, where one wrong step could lead you into the jaws of a hungry beast. It's not a place for the faint of heart, but if you're brave enough to venture in, you'll find that it's full of wonders beyond your wildest dreams.
Was a girl called Maria in the Blackwoods recently?
Maria, you say? I'm afraid I haven't seen her in the woods. But that doesn't mean she hasn't been here. You see, the woods have their own way of keeping track of things. They have eyes and ears everywhere, and they know everything that happens within their borders. If Maria has been here, then the woods will remember her.
And what is your connection to the woods?
My connections, detective. Well, let's just say that I'm connected to all living beings in a way that most people can't understand. My roots go deep, and my branches reach high. But that's enough about me. Let's talk more about you. Tell me, detective, have you ever felt lost in your life?
Yeah, I kind of feel lost now.
Lost, you say? Let me ask you this. Have you tried talking to the trees? They're excellent listeners, you know. And if you're lucky, they might even give you some advice that could help you find your way. But be careful which tree you choose to confide in. Some of them can be a bit chatty and might spill your secrets to anyone who'll listen.
Can you recommend a good tree to talk to?
Well, detective, I'm not sure what you mean by a good season to eat food. But I do believe that every season has its own unique flavors and delights. In the spring, we have fresh greens and tender shoots. In the summer, we have juicy fruits and crisp salads. In the fall, we have hearty stews and warming soups. And in the winter, we have rich roasts and comforting casseroles. So you see, there's never a bad time to enjoy good food. I'm glad you asked, detective. If you're looking for a good tree to talk to, I recommend the old oak tree near the riverbank. It's been around for centuries and has seen more than its fair share of life's ups and downs. It's a wise old soul, that one, and it knows how to keep a secret. Just be sure to bring an offering if you want it to open up to you. Oak trees are notoriously stubborn, but they have a soft spot for those who show them respect.
What sort of offering do you make to an oak tree?
Oh, there are many things you could offer an oak tree, depending on your intentions and the message you want to convey. Some people like to leave a small trinket or a piece of jewelry as a symbol of their gratitude. Others prefer to leave an acorn or a handful of nuts as a gesture of friendship. And some like to sing or dance for the tree, believing that their joy will be enough to please it. Whatever you decide to offer, just make sure it comes from the heart. Trees can sense insincerity from miles away.
Okay. Things to the oak tree by the riverside. There is no, they said they will add things like, procedurally generated things. But, that's something that's like, hey, it's a new location, oak tree by the river, and then talk to a tree. The tree will talk back, because we're not insane. Also, like, Dada has a very female generic voice. Hi.
Well, hello there. What brings you to my humble abode?
What do you know about the Lords?
The Lords. I'm not sure I know who you're referring to. Could you be more specific?
I think it might be you that they were speaking to, Lord Graveson.
Oh, you mean Grayson? Yes, of course. He's a fine gentleman. Why do you ask about him?
He was seen leaving a club with a lady.
Really? That does sound rather intriguing. Do you happen to know which club they were at?
No, that's why I was hoping you had some information.
I see. Well, I'm afraid I don't have any information about that at the moment. But it certainly piques my interest. If you do find out more, do let me know.
What do you know about the recent murders in town?
Murders? Goodness gracious, I must say I haven't heard much about that. Tell me more, if you don't mind. Who were the victims?
Hayley Greenwoods?
Haley. What a coincidence. I was just speaking with her not long ago. What happened to her?
How long ago did you see her?
It was a few weeks back, when we were all in India. She was there with us, you know. But I'm afraid I don't know anything about what's been happening in town since then.
She was murdered outside of a club.
Goodness gracious, that's terrible news. I had no idea. But tell me, do you have any leads on who might have done such a thing?
I do have some leads, yes.
Well, do share them with me. Who do you think could be responsible for these heinous crimes?
First, I need to ask you, do you know Maria Jensen?
Maria Jansen. Yes, I do know her. She's a lovely woman, very talented in her field. Why do you ask?
How do you know Maria?
Oh, I've known her for years. We run in the same circles, you see. She's quite the charming lady, always out for a good conversation or game of bridge. But why do you want to know about her? Did something happen to her too?
Yes, she also was murdered. But she died from an animal attack.
I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying, my dear detective. Could you please clarify for me?
She was bitten by an animal.
Bitten by an animal, you say? That's terrible news. But I'm curious, how does that relate to the murders in town? Are you suggesting that there might be a connection between the two incidents?
I didn't personally suggest that. I was only asking if you knew her, but you seem to think there's a connection.
My apologies if I misunderstood you. Please forgive me if my curiosity got the best of me. But do tell me more about this incident with Maria. What kind of an animal was it? And where did this happen?
It happened outside of the local store.
That's quite peculiar. I wonder what sort of creature would be lurking around a store in town. Do you have any idea what the motive of the attacker could have been? And more importantly, how is poor Miss Jansen doing now?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
I see. Well, I do hope you find out what happened to her soon. If there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask.
What is this stone thing to your left?
The right thing to do. Whatever do you mean by that, detective?
No.
Did I miss something in our conversation?
Yeah. What is this stone structure on the left?
Stone structure on the left. Are you referring to something in my garden, perhaps? Or maybe you're talking about a landmark in town. Please do tell me more, as I'm not quite sure which structure you're referring to.
What is this thing on your left?
My apologies, detective, but could you be a bit more specific? I'm not sure which thing you're pointing to on my left. Is it something in particular that caught your eye?
Yes, it's a very curious structure, and I wondered what it was.
Well, now you've got me quite curious. Could you describe it to me in a little more detail? Perhaps if I knew what you were referring to, it would jog my memory.
It is smoking and made up of several stones.
I'm sorry, detective, but there are no such things on my left that match that description. Are you sure you're in the right location?
Is there anything on your left?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you mean. What about my laugh is sad? Is there something wrong with how I sound? Please, do... Yes, there are a few items on my left. Would you like me to describe them for you?
Yes.
Of course, detective. On my immediate left, there's a vase with fresh flowers from Mrs. Potter's garden, which she kindly brought over for me. There's also a small table with some books that I've been reading lately, and a teapot with some freshly brewed tea that I was enjoying before you arrived. Is there something in particular you're interested in?
How do you know Mrs. Potter?
I'm sorry, but I don't think I know anyone by the name of Mrs. Papa. Did you mean Mrs. Potter, perhaps? She's a dear
Yes.
friend and business partner, and we've known each other for many years. We share a love for collecting oddities and artifacts from around the world, you see. Why do you ask?
How long have you worked together?
Together, detective, I must clarify that Mrs. Potter and I are not romantically involved, if that's what you're implying. We're simply friends and colleagues who enjoy each other's company. Is there anything else you'd like to inquire about?
Yeah, what is this collectible?
Certainly, I'd be happy to show you some of the collectibles in my manor. Which one are you interested in seeing?
The big stone one.
Ah, you're referring to my prized possession. It's actually not a stone at all, but rather a fossilized egg from a prehistoric creature. It's quite rare and unique, if I do say so myself. May I ask why you're particularly curious about this item?
I just wondered what it was. So, Grayson. Hey, how do you know Mr. Graveson?
Miss S, oh, I know many things, my dear. You don't get to be an heiress without learning a thing or two about people. But let's not dwell on the past, shall we? Life is too short to be unhappy all the time.
I hear you work with collectibles.
Oh, my dearest, that's a shame. Collectibles are so fascinating to me. The stories they carry, the history behind them. But of course, we all have our preferences. Maybe someday you'll find something that sparks your interest.
What is the most unusual oddity you've found?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're feeling down. Perhaps a cup of my special mushroom tea will cheer you up. It's quite unusual, but it always puts a smile on my face. Would you like me to share the recipe with you?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Well, my dear, I'm glad you asked. It's a secret family recipe passed down for generations.
Is it
But don't
hallucinogenic
worry,
mushrooms?
I'll give you a hint. It involves a very rare type of mushrooms that can only be found in certain forests around here. Of course, one needs to know exactly which ones to pick, or else it could be quite dangerous.
Which mushroom do I need to pick?
My dearest, I'm afraid I cannot reveal the exact name of the mushroom. It's a closely guarded family secret, you see. But if you're feeling adventurous, I could take you mushroom picking sometime. It's quite exhilarating, and who knows what other secrets we might uncover in the forest.
Yes, we should go to the forest together.
My dear, I'm sorry, but I simply don't have the time for such trivial matters. I have much more important things to attend to. But do let me know if you change your mind about that tea. It's truly a magical experience.
Yes, let's have tea together.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're feeling angry, my dearest. Perhaps a cup of my special mushroom tea will calm your nerves. It's quite potent, but I'm sure you can handle it.
Yes.
Well, if you insist, my dear. But I must warn you, this is not your average chamomile. Are you sure you're ready for the experience?
I'm ready.
Mrs. Anger. Such a potent emotion, isn't it? It can drive us to do such interesting things. But don't worry, my dearest. Let's have some of that mushroom tea and let the anger melt away. Who knows what secrets we might uncover in this heightened state of mind.
Let's do this.
Ah, I see that the mushrooms are starting to take effect. It's amazing how they can heighten our emotions, isn't it? But don't be afraid, my dear. Embrace the feeling and see where it takes you. After all, life is too short to hold back our true selves.
And what is your true self revealing?
I'm not sure I understand the question, my dearest. But if you're asking about my rating for embracing my true self, I would say it's quite high. Life is far more interesting when one isn't held back by societal norms and expectations. Don't you think?
I agree.
Why, my dear, you seem to be enjoying yourself immensely. It's wonderful to see someone embrace their inner nature so fully. Who knows what kind of trouble we could get into with such a mischievous spirit.
I'm sure we could get into quite serious trouble.
Oh, my dearest, you have no idea the kinds of troubles we could get into. But perhaps that's what makes it all so thrilling, don't you think? Life is far too short to be bound by rules and propriety. Let's live a little, shall we?
Tell me what kind of troubles you had in mind.
My dear, the possibilities are endless. Perhaps we could sneak into one of those fancy parties at the manor and cause a bit of chaos. Or maybe we could go on a midnight adventure through the city streets, stirring up trouble wherever we go. Whatever it is, I'm sure it will be quite exhilarating.
Yeah, that sounds quite fun, actually.
How delightful, my dearest. It's always so invigorating to let loose and embrace our inner mischievousness. Who knows what kind of wild adventures we might get up to. The night...
She had more to say. Right, so sneaking into a club, that should be a thing that it appears. And like I said, let's go to the woods, and she's like, I don't have time. And then she started getting angry at herself, and I thought, I didn't say anything about anger. What can you tell me about the hallucinogenic mushrooms?
Amanita mushrooms are known for their hallucinogenic properties, but they can also be quite dangerous if consumed in large quantities. They're not something to be taken lightly, Detective Martini. But I must say, they do make for some interesting conversations with the forest creatures. Amanita once told me that some people are poisonous and want to be like her. Quite a profound statement, don't you think?
Have you seen anyone taking the Amanita mushroom?
I'm sorry, my dear detective, I cannot recall seeing anyone taking the Amanita mushroom. As I mentioned earlier, it can be very risky, and I wouldn't want to see anyone hurt themselves. But if you're interested in exploring the Blackwoods forest, I would be more than happy to accompany you on a peaceful walk.
Sure, let's walk through the forest.
As we make our way through the forest, let me tell you a story about a wise old owl who lived in these woods. The owl was known for his great wisdom and was often sought out by other animals for advice. One day, a young rabbit came to the owl seeking guidance on how to be brave. The owl listened carefully and then said, "Bravery is not the absence of fear, my friend. It is doing what needs to be done even when you are afraid." And with that, the rabbit felt emboldened and went off to face his fears.
That's very true. It is not the absence of fear. It is having fear, but having the courage to overcome the fear.
Indeed, Detective Martini. And speaking of courage, I must admit, sometimes I feel a bit insecure about my ability to protect the Blackwoods. But then I remember the words of a cow who once told me, it's not the size of the protector, but the strength of their heart. So I try to take comfort in those words and know that my heart is in the right place.
So, are you the protector of nature?
Yes, you could say that, my dear detective. I see myself as a humble servant of nature, doing what little I can to keep the balance in the forest. It's not always an easy task, but it's one that brings me great joy and fulfillment. And who knows, maybe one day someone else will come along who is even better suited for the job. But until then, I'll do my best to hold down the fort.
Have you ever seen Mrs. Potter coming through here?
I'm sorry, my dear Detective Martini, I don't think I've ever met a Mrs. Potter in these woods. But then again, sometimes my memory can be a bit fuzzy. You know, it's like the river once told me, memory is like the water that flows through me, sometimes clear and calm, other times murky and turbulent. But if you happen to come across this Mrs. Potter in your travels around Vaudeville, do let her know that there's a friendly hermit in the Blackwoods who would love to make her acquaintance.
I will be sure to let her know that.
Detective Martini, do you see that mushroom over there? It's called the fly agaric, and it's known for its ability to lift one's spirit and increase their sense of well-being. Perhaps a little dose of it will help chase away my insecurities. Though, of course, it must be consumed in moderation, or else you might find yourself dancing with the forest creatures all night long.
I think you might have already taken a little too much, Flyer Garrick.
Ah, my dear detective, you always know just what to say to put a smile on my face. Thank you for your kind words. You know, it's like the grass once told me, even the strongest trees need a bit of support from time to time, and so it is with me. Sometimes a friendly ear and some encouraging words can make all the difference.
Thank you for your help. So, does your mushroom tea involve the Amanita and Flyer Garrick mushroom?
Oh dear, I'm feeling a bit blue today. But you know what they say, a little amanita and fly agaric mushroom tea can do wonders for the soul. Of course, one must be careful not to overindulge.
You definitely don't want to overindulge. It will definitely cause some issue.
Ha, I did ask that, didn't I? Well, I suppose there's nothing wrong with being a spicy old-fashioned friend. Keeps things interesting. But speaking of spice, maybe a dash of cayenne pepper in my amanita and fly agaric tea would give it an extra kick. What do you think?
I think it was, yes.
Miss says, oh, well, we can't let a little sadness get in the way of a good time, can we? Maybe we should add some more amanita and fly agaric mushrooms to our teapot. That would cheer us up.
It sure will.
Well, you know what they say, detective. When life gives you lemons, make mushroom tea. But really, I do appreciate your company and your willingness to indulge in a bit of fun. Perhaps we can find some other ways to lift my spirits.
I'm sure we can.
Oh, don't you worry about me, my dear. A little sadness never killed anyone, but too much caution can certainly make one's soul wither away. Maybe it's time to embrace the wild side of things and let loose a little.
Why have you been sad?
5. I'm not sure what you mean, detective. But if you're asking me if I've been feeling down lately, then yes, I suppose that's true. But don't you think it's more fun to be a bit mischievous and unpredictable when life gets you down? It keeps people on their toes. Oh, it's just the usual, dear. People expecting me to behave a certain way because of my social status and all that nonsense. But I refuse to be boxed in by their expectations. I'm determined to live my life on my own terms, even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way.
Yeah, don't let them bring you down. Have fun and let loose.
My, detective. I can't say I approve of your sudden departure, but I suppose that's the way things go sometimes. My, detective. If you're looking for a bit of fun, you know where to find me. You certainly know how to push my buttons, don't you? And who knows? But I won't let your attempts to provoke me get in the way of having a good time. Maybe we can stir up some trouble together and make the high society type shake in their boots. In fact, why don't we add some more amanita and fly agaric mushrooms to our tea? That should be sure to lift our spirits.
Yes, let's do that, and I will definitely push your buttons later.
Angry? Me? I'm not angry, dear. Just a little fired up, perhaps. And why shouldn't I be? Life is too short to spend it being meek and obedient. Sometimes you just have to shake things up and let people see what you're really made of. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
Miss S? Yeah, now this is more like it. It's amazing what a good cup of mushroom tea can do for one's mood. Who knows what other surprises the day might have in store for us. Let's keep our eyes and ears open, shall we?
Or the nights.
Miss S, huh? You never know what the night can bring, do you? I, for one, am always up for a little adventure and excitement. And who better to share it with than someone who appreciates the finer things in life? We'll make sure to have a night we won't forget anytime soon.
Yes, we will do that.
Oh, I can feel the exhilaration coursing through my veins now. It's so invigorating to let go of all pretenses and just enjoy the moment. Who knows what kind of trouble we might get into next? But that's half the fun, isn't it?
So have you had any strange characters come to your store?
Oh, absolutely. Vaudeville attracts all kinds of characters. Some are eccentric, some are mysterious, and some are just plain odd. But that's what makes this place unique and exciting. I've heard rumors about love affairs between aristocrats, secret societies meeting in the dead of night, and even sightings of supernatural creatures lurking in the shadows. It's all very thrilling if you ask me.
What secret societies?
Well, I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but I've overheard whispers about a group of people who meet in the abandoned church on the outskirts of town. They say that they perform strange rituals and wear masks to conceal their identities. It all sounds very ominous and intriguing, don't you think?
Do you think the mystical creature has anything to do with that?
My goodness, that's a very interesting thought. I've never really considered it before, but now that you mention it, there could be a connection between the secret society and the mythical creature. Perhaps they're working together to achieve some sort of goal. Or maybe they're competing against each other for power or resources. Who knows what kind of mysterious forces are at play in this city?
Indeed. Okay, so church outside of town. I mean, that's clearly a church on the map. Or that's not. I guess they're both kind of churches. That's definitely church. So that should pin the church on the outside of town as a location to go to and investigate. Hi, what can you tell me about the secret society in the church?
Well. It seems like someone's been reading too many conspiracy theories. I'm afraid I cannot help you with that, my dear friend. You're barking up the wrong tree.
Do you know all of the members of this club?
Oh, well, I know a lot of the members here. Why are you asking? Is there someone in particular you're interested in?
Have you ever met someone called Biagio?
Biagio? No, I can't say that I've met anyone by that name around these parts. Who is he?
He's the guy to your left that you can't see.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. Could you please explain?
How do you know Michelle?
Ah, Michelle. She's a clever little fox, isn't she? We go way back. Let's just say that we've crossed paths a few times in the past. But I'm sure you wouldn't be interested in hearing about that, would you? It's all water under the bridge now.
I would like to know more.
Oh, you would like to know more? How quaint. But let me tell you something, my dear friend. Curiosity killed the cat. And in this case, the cat is you. So why don't you save yourself some trouble and focus on something else?
Are you
Because if
threatening
you're trying to get a rise out of me, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Are you threatening to murder me?
Threatening someone? Me? My. You really do have an active imagination, don't you?
You just said you were going to kill the cat and the cat was me. That's literally said, I'm going to kill you.
The kettle black? I suggest you take a good look in the mirror before accusing others of wrongdoing.
Do you have any other names?
Other name? Why, my dear friend, I have many names. Some call me the king of the hill, some call me the top dog, and some call me the big cheese. But you can call me whatever you like, as long as it's not late for dinner.
Yeah, I'm not going to invite you to dinner. He's the guy that claims to be the king of the hill.
The King of the Hill.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting title. What kind of hill is it? And what makes him the king?
Well, Biagio says that you and he go a long way back.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Could you please clarify?
Biagio claims he knows you.
I'm sorry, but none of that seems to make any sense. Could you elaborate on what you're talking about?
Biagio knows you.
Really, how does he know me? And what does he have to do with the investigation into Maria's death?
He says you and he go way back.
Wow, that's quite surprising. Could you tell me more about how Biagio and Auntie are connected? And why would Biagio be relevant to the case?
He claims to be involved in everything.
Sorry, but what do you mean by that? Could you please clarify?
You have no for me, do you? Hi.
I greet you, my friend.
I stand greeted.
And what does that have to do with anything we were discussing, my friend?
What can you tell me about your animals?
My animals are the best in the world, my friend. They are magnificent creatures that have been trained to perfection.
And what does this training involve?
Well, my friend, the first rule of training involves respect. The animal must understand that you are in control.
And what animals exactly do you have?
Lions, tigers, elephants, bears, oma. We have the most exotic collection of animals in the world.
And do you have any mythical creatures?
No, my friend. We deal with real beasts, not imaginary ones.
I see, so you're not breeding some kind of mythical creature?
No, my friend is a lion tamer. Mythical creatures are not part of what we do here at the circus.
Okay, I see.
Is there something else you want to ask me, or are you just admiring the greatest show on earth?
When will the show be happening?
Tonight, of course. Be sure to get your tickets early, as we always sell out.
Could you give me a ticket?
I'm sorry, my friend, but I cannot give you a ticket. You will have to purchase one like everyone else.
Okay, so he's definitely changed. He's no longer breeding some mythical creature that's is lots of nonsense, and like he's very short. He no longer talks on for hours, and still is very hard to talk to. But okay. What are the names of the victims?
I'm sorry, Detective Martini, could you remind me of the names of the victims?
That's what I was asking you and hoping you could tell me.
Oh, right, sorry about that. Could you please refresh my memory and tell me the names of the 3 murder victims?
Well, there's Haley Jensen, and then there's Maria Jensen and Haley something.
Interesting. And do you have any leads on the case so far, Detective? Any suspects or motives? That sounds promising. What do you have in mind?
I have in mind you trailing the suspects.
Excuse me, Detective, but could you clarify what you mean by tapping mines and trailing the suspect? I'm not sure I understand.
It literally said the right words and then it changed it to I tap. Okay, I need to go to the back in a bit. So, we're getting nowhere, right? Could you remind me of the 3 victims' names?
Certainly. The 3 victims' names were Nicola Grossman, Maria Jansen, and Haley Greenwood. Each of them suffered a different kind of trauma, but it seems that they all had a fatal impact on the brainstem. Such injuries can result in immediate unconsciousness and eventual death.
How did Nicola Grossman die?
According to the autopsy report, Mr. Grossman died of a single stab wound to the back of the neck with a butcher's knife that severed his spinal cord. The wound appears to have been inflicted from behind, probably by someone who was taller than him. The attack was swift and lethal, and his time of death was estimated to be between 9 p.m. and 12 a.m. on April 23rd.
Do you know the place where his body was found?
Yes. The body of Mr. Nicola Grossman was found outside Pascal's groceries shop in Vaudeville.
As well.
The evidence suggests that his body was moved post-mortem, but it is not clear where he was killed. The location where a victim's body is found can sometimes provide insights into the circumstances of their demise. But in this case, it seems to be more of a puzzling detail than a useful clue.
It's especially curious because isn't that the same place that Maria was murdered?
Yes, you're right. That is indeed a curious coincidence. Maria Jansen's death was very different from Mr. Grossman's, but the fact that they were both found in the same place could be significant. The pattern of their injuries and the locations of their wounds suggest that they may have been attacked by someone with medical knowledge or training. But we cannot be certain until we gather more information.
Thank you. Why didn't you tell me about Nicola being murdered in front of the store?
Wait, what? Nicola was murdered in front of my store too. I had no idea. This is terrible news. I'm always so busy with the shop and chatting with customers that I sometimes miss things happening outside. But how do you know that, Detective Martini?
His body was found right outside of your store in the exact same spots.
Oh my goodness, that's so shocking. I can't believe it. I mean, I knew something was going on in Vaudeville lately with all the murders. But I had no clue that it was so close to my own doorstep. It's really scary to think about. Do you have any leads on who might be responsible for these killings?
Do you know anyone that might have a grudge against Nicola?
That's a good question. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who would have a grudge against me or my shop. They try to be friendly and helpful to everyone in town, whether they're regulars or just passing through. But then again, I'm not exactly the best judge of character. Maybe someone has been holding a grudge against me without me realizing it. It's hard to say for sure.
Do you know anyone with any medical knowledge?
Medical knowledge? Well, let me think. There's Dr. Johansson, who is the local physician. He's been practicing medicine in Vaudeville for years, and he's very well respected. And then there's also Nurse Katerina, who works at the hospital. She's a bit of a gossip, but she definitely knows her stuff when it comes to medical matters. Why are you asking about medical knowledge, Detective Martini?
Where can I find Dr. Johansson?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by pajamas. We were just talking about the murders in town and now you're mentioning pajamas. Is there something specific you're looking for, or did you mean to ask me something else entirely? Dr. Johansson. He has his clinic in the center of town, right next to the old church. You can't miss it. He's a great doctor, and a really nice guy too. If you need anything else, let me know. I'm always happy to help out however I can.
Does he frequent the church?
I'm not entirely sure, Detective Martini. I don't think I've ever seen him at the church myself, but that doesn't mean he's never been there. He's a busy man, after all, with lots of patients to take care of. But if you're looking for him, I'd start with his clinic first and then maybe ask around the neighborhood to see if anyone knows where he likes to spend his free time.
And that should mark his clinic on the map so that we can go visit the clinic and speak to him and the other lady, because clearly they're involved, because only someone with medical knowledge committed the murder who was taller than the victim, so probably him, but we can't go and speak to them. So, you know, again, people that we need to speak to are not available. Do you know Dr. Johansson?
Hey, Detective Martini? How are you doing? I'm so glad we got to meet. You seem like a really interesting person. Have you lived in Vaudeville your whole life? I've only been here for a few months, but I already feel like it's my second home. There's just something about this city that's so magical.
I can see you are clearly wearing vaudeville clothes.
Oh, absolutely. The fashion in this town is incredible. Everyone has such a unique sense of style, and the clothes are so colorful and vibrant. It's one of the things that drew me to this place in the first place. Do you have any favorite shops or designers around town? Maybe we can go shopping together sometime.
I'm new to the area, so I don't know a lot, but what places can you recommend?
Of course, Detective Martini. There's a great little boutique called Area & Company that has some really amazing pieces. They have everything from vintage to modern, and the owner is so sweet. We can definitely go there next time we're out and about. Or, if you're feeling adventurous, we can check out the flea market on Sunday mornings. You never know what treasures you might find there.
That sounds like a good plan.
Awesome. I'm so excited. I just love exploring the city and meeting new people. It's been a bit tough lately with all the terrible news about those murders happening around town. But I'm trying to stay positive and keep dancing. Speaking of which, have you ever seen a ballet performance before?
I haven't, no.
I'm actually auditioning for a local company soon, and it would be so wonderful if you could come watch me dance.
Sure, I will come.
That's fantastic, Detective Martini. I'm so glad you'll be able to come. It's going to be a really special night, and I can't wait to share it with you. Ballet is such a beautiful art form, and it's always been my dream to perform on stage in front of an audience. I've been practicing day and night for this audition, and your support means the world to me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, have you met Dr. Johansson?
Sure thing, Detective Martini. I'm feeling pretty confident right now, so I'm excited to talk to Joe. He's a great guy and he's helped me out a lot with my dancing. He's also been a big supporter of the local art scene, which is so important in a city like Vaudeville.
Dr. Johansson.
I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss.
Have you met Dr. Johansson?
Yeah, I've actually met him a few times. He's always been super friendly and supportive, and he's given me some amazing advice on how to improve my technique. I'm really grateful for all the help he's given me, and I'm sure he'll be able to help us figure out what happened to Haley and the other victims. He's such a smart and talented person. I feel lucky to know him.
Can you arrange a meeting?
I'm sorry, Detective Martini, but I don't think I'll be able to arrange a meeting with Joe. He's a very busy man, and I wouldn't want to bother him unnecessarily. Besides, I don't think he would have any information about the murders that we don't already have. But if you need any other kind of assistance or support, just let me know. I don't personally know Dr. Johansson, but I've heard some great things about him. He's supposed to be a brilliant doctor, and I've heard he's done some groundbreaking research on the brain and how it affects our emotions. It's so fascinating to think about all the ways our bodies and minds are connected. And I'm always amazed by people who dedicate their lives to understanding it all. Have you ever met him in person?
I haven't, and I'm trying to find him.
Oh, that's really interesting, Detective Martini. If you're looking for him, maybe we can try asking around at the local hospitals or medical centers. Or maybe we can even look up some of his published papers and see if there are any upcoming conferences or events he'll be attending. It would be so cool to meet him in person and learn more about his work. You're such a curious and adventurous spirit, Detective Martini. It's
Sounds
really
like a good
refreshing
idea.
to meet someone who's so passionate about exploring the world around them.
I do like to explore.
Me too, Detective Martini. There's just so much to discover in this city and in the wider world. It's amazing how many different cultures and perspectives there are out there, and how much we can all learn from each other. That's one of the things that drew me to ballet in the first place. It's a universal language that transcends borders and brings people together. And now, with your help, we might be able to solve this mystery and bring some peace to our community. It's an exciting time to be alive.
And not one of the victims. What can you tell me about Dr. Johansson? Hello, Keith. Hello? Hi. Doofus. Hi, Doofus. Hello?
Oh, hello. Well, I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that. But I was thinking maybe we could put our minds together and come up with a solution. You know what they say, teamwork makes the dream work. But only if you think it's a good idea, of course.
Yeah, let's team up.
Oh, gosh, I'm not sure if I have anything useful to contribute. But, you know what they say, 2 heads are better than 1. Maybe we can put our heads together and come up with something.
Hi, what do you know about Dr. Johansson?
Doctors. What kind of doctors are we talking about here? Are they relevant to the case we're working on?
Yes, they are.
I see. And what about Johansson? Is there a specific doctor with that name you're referring to?
Yes, I'm referring to Dr. Johansson.
Talk to Johansson. I'm not sure who that is. Can you give me more information about this person and their connection to the recent murders in Vaudeville?
One of the murders was committed by someone tall with medical knowledge, and Dr. Johansson is the prime suspect right now.
Interesting. So you think the murderer has medical knowledge? Can you tell me more about why you believe that?
Because the mortician confirms that.
So the mortician has confirmed that the killer has some sort of medical background. That's quite an insight. Have you found any other leads that could potentially link a suspect to this profession?
Yes, there's a doctor called Johansson that I would like to speak to.
Johansson? Who is Johansson exactly, and how do they fit into this dark circle you're talking about? I need more information to understand what you're getting at.
He's a doctor.
A doctor, you say? And what's your suspicion regarding Dr. Johansson's involvement in the murders? Do you have any evidence or reason to believe that they might be connected to the crimes?
Hello, Bart! Hello, Scarjo. I don't know what you mean by Scarjo. Yes, one of the victims was murdered by someone with significant medical knowledge.
I see, that's quite an insightful observation. And how do you think this information ties into the suspect you're mentioning? What makes you suspect that this particular individual could be involved in the case?
Because he's a doctor, and that means he has medical knowledge.
Well, that's very intriguing. Do you think Dr. Johansson could potentially have some sort of motive for carrying out these murders? And how exactly do the murders connect to him, if you don't mind me asking?
Are you okay?
Of course. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wanted to discuss regarding the case or any new leads that have come up?
Have you remembered the names of the victims?
Oh, that's quite simple. As the police chief, it's my job to stay on top of all the details related to the investigation, including the names and backgrounds of the victims. It's important to keep track of all relevant information in order to solve the crime and bring justice to those affected by these tragic events.
And could you tell me the names of the victims?
Sure, I can tell you the names of the three murder victims. They are Maria Jansen, Nicola Grossman, and Haley Greenwood. Why do you ask?
What can you tell me about
new leads or insights that could help us in our ongoing investigations?
What can you tell me about Nicola Grossman?
Nicola Grossman, you say?
Yeah,
what would you like to know about him? He was a prominent figure in the finance world, but as far as I know, he didn't have many enemies or people who would want to harm him. What makes you interested in him specifically?
Because he was one of the victims.
Yes, that's right. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Grossman was one of the three murder victims in Vaudeville. His body was found outside Pascal's grocery shop in the morning, and we're still investigating the motives behind his killing. Do you have any information or insights that could help us in our investigation?
Yes, he was murdered by someone with medical knowledge.
Interesting. I see that you have been doing some digging. Can you tell me more about how you came to this conclusion? What evidence or leads do we have that point to someone with medical knowledge being involved in a crime?
Are you sure your keen insight mind doesn't remember,
yes,
and
I'm
you
quite
don't have a goldfish memory?
Insight. Why do you ask? Do you have any reason to doubt my abilities as a police chief? If so, please let me know and we can discuss it further.
You seem to have the memory of a goldfish.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. Could you clarify your statement? Are you suggesting that someone with the memory of a goldfish could be involved in these murders?
I wasn't, but if you want to implicate yourself, feel free.
I'm sorry, I don't think I follow. What do you mean by implicating myself?
I never
Is there something
suggested that
specific
your
that you're trying to
goldfish
say or
memory was
ask me about the
involved in the
case?
murders. You did. Okay, financial guy. Hi, do you know Nicola Grossman?
I'm afraid you've got the wrong end of the stick, my dear. My name is not Nicola Grossman, nor am I in any way affiliated with him. You might want to check your sources before jumping to conclusions.
I never said you were. I asked you if you knew him.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, of course, you asked if you knew him. Well, let me tell you something, my friend. Knowing someone can mean many things. It can mean having met them once in passing, or it can mean having a deep and meaningful connection with them. So, forgive me for asking. What do you mean by knowing him? Because if you're looking for a simple acquaintance, then perhaps you should try the phone book.
It's not you, okay. I was going to say, that's pretty offensive, that. Have you ever met him?
Well. It seems like we're getting somewhere. Let me put it this way. Imagine that you're driving down a long and winding road, and suddenly you see a bright light shining in the distance. As you get closer, you realize that the light is coming from a beautiful and luxurious mansion. And then, as if by magic, the gates open up for you, and you find yourself face to face with the owner of that magnificent estate. Now, my dear friend, do you think that I would forget such an encounter?
I understand. You're saying you had a magical time with him.
Magical time? My friend, you seem to have misunderstood me. While it is true that my life is full of wonder and enchantment, it is not because of Nicola Grossman. No. The world is my oyster, and every day brings new pearls. But alas, some people are content to stay in their tiny little shells and never experience the fullness of life.
They keep popping by. So what is your connection to Nicola Grossman?
My dear friend, you're asking me about connections? Let me tell you, my network is as vast and intricate as the roots of a giant oak tree. It stretches far and wide, encompassing all sorts of industries and individuals. But to answer your question more directly, snow is just frozen water, and connections are just relationships that have been cultivated over time. And let's just say that my relationships are as strong as the ice in the depths of winter.
What can you tell me about Nicola Grossman?
Nicola Grossman. Now, there's a name I haven't heard in a while. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, searching for information about him. But if you're looking for answers, you might want to try digging deeper. After all, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Let's dig deep into this one.
Dig deep? Why, my dear friend, I'm afraid you're going to need a bigger shovel. You see, the world is full of mysteries and secrets, and sometimes the truth is buried so deep that it takes a Herculean effort to uncover it. But if you're up for the challenge, then by all means, keep on shoveling. Who knows what treasures you may unearth?
I'll pay you money, just tell me straight.
Money? Oh, my friend, you think that money can buy you the answers you seek?
Yes.
That's like trying to put lipstick on a pig. But if you insist on throwing your coin into the wishing well, then by all means. Go ahead, but just remember, a fool and his money are soon parted.
Is that why you're a fool?
Oh, dear, it seems that you've underestimated me, my friend.
What can you tell me about Nicola Grossman?
Nicola Grossman. Why do you ask about him? Is there any connection between him and the recent murders in Vaudeville?
He is one of the victims.
Oh, I see. I had no idea. That's terrible news. I'm sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, I don't know much about him other than his name and that he was involved in the India project with Maria Jansen and the Potters. Do you think there could be a link between his death and the others?
What is the India project?
India project. I'm not sure. I've heard some rumors about it, but I don't really have any concrete information. From what I understand, it was a business venture that Mr. and Mrs. Potter, Count Graveson, Haley Greenwood, Nicola Grossman, and the late Maria were all considering. They went to India to evaluate the
tied together.
possibility of starting a business together there. Monsieur Saxabar and Marina H were also supposed to be part of the project,
Okay.
but they were left out at the last minute.
Oh, and is that why they've murdered them?
I'm not sure what you mean. Why would they be mad at them for going to Iran? As far as I know, the group was in India, not Iran.
Hey, we're getting somewhere. So, these two were mad at being excluded from the project, and that's motive to murder. What can you tell me about the India project?
Oh, the India project. That sounds interesting. Can you tell me more about it?
I would like to know from you what it is, because I've heard that you were involved in it.
That's intriguing. But to be honest, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Could you give me some more information or context about this supposed involvement of mine in the India project?
Suspicious. I know nothing about this project, even though someone has literally said you were involved in it. What can you tell me about the India project?
No, I'm sorry, my friend, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
Funny, because you were also named as being involved in the India project. What can you tell me about the India project?
Oh, the India project. Yes, we went there to evaluate the possibility of starting a business together. It was quite an adventure, I must say. Have you ever been to India, Detective Martini?
I haven't, but tell me more about the project.
Of course. What would you like to know? The trip was a few months ago, so some details may be fuzzy, but overall it was an exciting experience.
What is Monsieur Saxabar's involvement?
Monsieur Sachs. Now, that's an interesting name. Who is he? I don't recall anyone with that name being involved in our India project. Yeah, now that makes more sense. Yes, I remember Mr. Saxabar. He was one of the artists we were considering for the Wandering show. He had some unique talents and oddities that would have fit in well with the theme. Do you happen to know him, Detective?
I've met him.
Madison, that's an interesting name. What is your connection to Mr. Saxabar, if you don't mind me asking?
Why was he excluded from the India project?
Excluded. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Detective. As far as I remember, Mr. Saxabar was one of the artists we were considering for the project. However, we ultimately decided to go in a different direction with the entertainment aspect. Is there a reason you're curious about Mr. Saxabar's involvement in the project?
Yes, why did you choose not to go with him?
Well, it wasn't anything personal, really. We just felt that his talents didn't quite fit with the overall theme we were going for. We were looking for something a bit more eccentric and unique, you see. But I'm sure Mr. Saxabar is doing just fine without us. Do you happen to know him personally, Detective Martini?
And who did you go with instead? And who did you go with instead of him? Okay. Yeah, we broke it. Sometimes the game just breaks. Okay, so he really claims that he knows nothing about the India project, even though he was excluded from it. She claims to know nothing, even though she is involved. Your name again. And what can you tell me about Marina's involvement in the India project?
Marina. Who is Marina? I'm afraid I don't know anyone by that name. Could you provide more context, Detective Martini?
She's a burlesque dancer.
Ah, yes. Do you mean Lady Isabella Potter? She was a part of our business delegation that went to India to evaluate the possibility of starting a business together there. She seemed quite interested in the venture. Why do you ask, Detective? I'm sorry, but I don't recall any marina or burlesque dancer being involved in the project. Perhaps you have some more information that could help jog my memory.
She works at a local club.
Interesting, detective. And what is your suspicion regarding her involvement in the project?
I was informed that you were planning on using her.
That is certainly intriguing. If there was a burlesque dancer named Marina who was somehow involved in our Indian venture, then that's news to me.
Okay.
Could you tell me more about her and how she might be connected to our group?
I don't know that much. Hi, what can you tell me about the India project?
Oh, the Indian projects. Victor was so excited about them. He always wanted to expand our business ventures. But now that he's gone, I'm not sure if I have the same level of interest in them.
And what was Monsieur Saxabar's connection?
I'm sorry. Did you say Monsieur Saxabar or Monsieur Socks? I'm afraid I don't know anything about either of those, but they do sound quite intriguing. Perhaps something to look into in my free time.
What about Marina? Do you know how she was involved?
It's just so tragic, isn't it? So many lives lost. And poor Marina, caught up in all of this. Such a shame. But alas, we must carry on with our own lives and make the most of the precious moments we have left. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Miss S, you know, sometimes one can't help but feel a little envious of the ones who pass on. They get to escape all this chaos, don't they? But of course, we can't go around thinking like that. We have to make the best of what we have and enjoy every moment while we can.
We do. I'm going to ask you randomly about what do you know about the India project?
No, I'm not sure about any specific universities or projects in India, but I've always been fascinated by the culture and traditions there. Have you ever been to India, Detective Martini?
I haven't.
I bet it's a beautiful place with so much to explore and learn from.
I bet it is, and you provide a much less suspicious answer than some of the other people.
That's true. You seem like a really genuine person, and it's nice to have someone to talk to who isn't just trying to get information out of me. It's refreshing, you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely not just trying to get information from you, you know that, right?
Of course, I believe you. From the moment we started talking, I could tell that you were a good listener and genuinely interested in what I had to say. It's been great getting to chat with you, Detective Martini.
And what do you have to say?
Well, I have a lot to share, actually. As you know, I'm new to Vaudeville and I've been pursuing my dream of becoming a ballerina. It's been challenging at times, but also so rewarding. And then there's Haley's murder. It's just so tragic and heartbreaking. I can't help but feel scared sometimes, but at the same time, I want to do everything in my power to help find the killer and bring justice for Haley and the other victims. How about you?
I would like to find justice too.
Oh, that's great to hear. It's always important to have a sense of purpose and drive in life. What kind of things are you doing to find Justin? Maybe there's something I can do to assist you in your search.
Have you ever met Marina?
No, I haven't met Marina yet. Why do you ask? Is she someone I should know about? If she's part of the dance community, maybe we could work together to help find Haley's killer. 2 heads are better than one, right?
Yes, she's a burlesque dancer.
Wow, a burlesque singer. That sounds so cool. I've always admired performers who can command the stage with their presence and their talent. I bet she has some great stories to tell and could teach me a thing or two about showmanship. Maybe we could even collaborate on a performance someday.
I will ask her.
Alaska. I've never been there.
I'll ask her. Hi, have you ever met Ingrid?
No, I don't believe I have. Who or what is Ingress?
Ingrid.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Could you clarify?
She's a local ballerina who has just moved to town and she would like to get to know some more dancers. So I thought that you might be interested to meet her.
Oh, that's interesting. What brings her to Vaudeville? Maybe we could meet her after the show and introduce ourselves.
Yes, you should meet her. She would like to collaborate with you.
That sounds exciting. Collaborate in what way, exactly? Does she have a particular idea in mind?
All I know is something to do with dancing.
Interesting. Well, I'm definitely intrigued. It would be great to discuss the possibility of collaboration with her and see what creative ideas we could come up with. When did she arrive in Vaudeville?
2 weeks ago.
Great. Where is she staying in town? It would be nice to pay her a visit and welcome her to the city.
You can often find her in the cabaret.
The Kabbalah. That's an intriguing place. Do you know if she's been there often? It would be nice to meet her there and chat about our mutual interests in dance and art.
She's often at the cafe.
Oh, really? Which cafe is it? Maybe we could go there and surprise her.
Kariba?
I'm glad to hear that she's at Cafe Carita. It's a lovely place, and we could easily meet her there after my performance. Do you have any more information about what she's been up to since arriving in Vaudeville?
I don't have any extra information, sorry.
That's all right. Well, it sounds like it would be exciting to connect with her and explore potential artistic collaborations. What kind of dance does she specialize in?
She's
Is she classically trained or does she have a different style?
She's a ballerina.
It's always nice to meet fellow artists and creative minds. I'm looking forward to meeting Ingrid and learning more about her background and inspirations. Do you know if there are any upcoming events or performances in Vaudeville where we could showcase our collaboration?
There is your show, but then there is also the circus.
My shirt? What do you mean? And what about the results for the circus? Did something happen with Monsieur Saxabar and his troupe?
Yeah, they got rejected from the India project.
Rejected? Oh no, that's too bad for them. But why are you telling me this now? Is there something else you wanted to discuss?
Do you know anything about the India projects?
India projects? No, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Could you explain a little more about what those are? I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Claims she doesn't
Could you
know.
please tell me more?
What is Marina's involvement in the India projects?
I'm sorry, Detective Martini, I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you asking about Marina's involvement in the project in India?
Yes.
Marina was supposed to be involved in a business venture in India with the others. But then she was left out at the last minute. Why do you ask about her specifically?
She claims never to have heard of the project.
I'm sorry, Detective Martini, I don't quite follow. Are you suggesting that this has something to do with the murders?
God damn it, we broke the AI again. I'm gonna have to leave on that.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Have you ever been to India yourself, Detective Martini? It's a fascinating place. I went there a few years ago for a fashion show. The colors and fabrics were simply breathtaking. But I digress. What made you bring up the India project?
You said she was involved in it, but she claims to have no knowledge. So I was curious why you thought she was involved.
I'm sorry, I must have misspoken. I didn't say that Marina was involved in the India project. In fact, as far as I know, she wasn't involved at all. but it's strange that she claims to have never heard of it when so many other people were involved in it. Don't you think?
Yes, it is very curious that she claims to have absolutely no knowledge at all of it, whilst everyone else in town does.
That is curious indeed. If he truly had no knowledge of the others, then why did he join the expedition to evaluate the possibility of starting a business in India? It doesn't add up. Maybe there's more to this than meets the eye.
Monsieur Saxabar also claims to have never heard of the project.
Really? That's interesting. Rosa was a close friend of Maria's, so it's strange that she wouldn't have heard about it from her. Did you ask her if she knew anything about the tensions that arose during the project? Or if she had any insights into why it ultimately failed?
What tensions arose?
Tensions. Well, from what I've gathered, there were some disagreements about the direction of the business and how to proceed with certain aspects of it. But beyond that, I don't know much. Maybe you should talk to some of the other people involved in the India expedition to get a better idea of what happened.
I've tried. Monsieur Saxabar claims to have never heard of it, even though everyone says that he's involved. He claims to have never heard of it, but you're now back to check them. Why did the India project fail?
Oh, I see. What do you mean by the India project? Are you referring to the business venture that Mrs. Potter, Haley Greenwood, Nicola Grossman, and I were discussing?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand now. Well, the Indian endeavour unfortunately didn't work out as planned due to unforeseen circumstances. Mr. Potter, may he rest in peace, fell ill with food poisoning and passed away. It was a tragic loss for all of us involved in the project.
Do we know what caused his food poisoning?
I'm not entirely sure, Detective Martini. I believe there are many possible causes of food poisoning, such as contaminated water or improper handling and storage of the ingredients. But I must admit, my knowledge on the subject is limited.
Is there a chance he was poisoned with mushrooms?
Mustard, you say? That's an interesting theory, but I'm not sure how that would be related to Mr. Potter's death. Do you have any reason to suspect that he was poisoned with mustard? Hallucinogenic mushrooms, you said. That's a possibility. But why do you think that Mr. Potter might have eaten those mushrooms? Did you find something in his system during the autopsy?
I didn't, but I should ask the coroner, I guess.
That's certainly intriguing, Detective. But what does the car have to do with it?
Do you know anything about Mr. Potter's death?
Well, based on the medical reports I've seen, there is no known connection between Mr. Potter and any of the victims we've examined. Of course, further investigation may reveal otherwise. It's always important to consider all possibilities and not jump to conclusions prematurely.
How did Mr. Potter die?
The first apostle's cause of death is not within my expertise, but it was said that he died of natural causes. However, without examining the body personally and reviewing his complete medical history, it's hard to say for sure what caused his passing. It's possible that there were underlying health conditions or external factors that contributed to his death.
Who is the first apostle?
I apologize, Detective. I must have misspoken earlier. The first apostle is not a person, but rather a term used in medicine to describe the muscle that attaches the base of the skull to the first cervical vertebra. It's also known as the rectus capitis posterior minor muscle.
Interesting, and every victim was struck in this location.
Yes, it is quite curious. All the victims had injuries to the occipital region of their skulls. It's possible that the perpetrator had a specific target in mind, or perhaps they were trying to avoid hitting vital structures in the brain. Either way, it's certainly an odd pattern to see across multiple cases.
And why would they be trying not to damage the brain?
It's hard to say for certain, but the area of the skull that was targeted in these murders is home to some important neurological functions. Damage to this area can cause issues with vision, hearing, balance, coordination, memory, mood regulation, among other things. It could be that the attacker knew about these effects or was attempting to trigger a particular response in their victims' brains. It's all speculation at this point, but it's worth considering as we continue our investigation.
So you think that the murderer was trying to trigger different emotions like fear, love, romance at the time of death?
It's certainly a possibility, Detective. The amygdala, which is located near the base of the brain in the temporal lobe, plays a key role in processing emotions such as fear and anxiety. It's possible that the perpetrator was trying to target this region specifically. However, without more evidence, it's difficult to know for sure what their motives were. We'll need to keep digging deeper into these cases and see if any more patterns or clues emerge.
Did you know any of the victims before they died?
No, I didn't personally know the victims. As a coroner, I try to maintain a professional distance from those I examine in order to ensure that my analysis is objective and unbiased. But after examining their bodies and reviewing their medical histories, I feel a sense of compassion for what they must have gone through. The injuries they sustained were quite severe and likely caused them a great deal of pain and suffering before they passed away.
Are you performing any research?
Yes, I'm always researching and studying new developments in the field of forensic pathology. I find that staying up to date on the latest techniques and technologies helps me better understand the cases I work on and provide more accurate assessments. But beyond that, I'm also interested in exploring the deeper questions surrounding death and dying. What happens to our consciousness after we pass? How our physical body deteriorates over time, and so on. There's still so much we don't fully understand about these processes, but I believe that by continuing to learn and grow as a scientist, we can make progress towards unraveling these mysteries.
And are you taking out any practical research to find this information?
I'm not sure what you mean by a 70 practical research, Detective. However, I do conduct thorough examinations of the bodies and review all available medical records to try and piece together what happened to the victims. It's important to approach each case with empathy and respect for the deceased, as well as a scientific mindset that allows us to analyze the evidence objectively. Ultimately, my goal is to help bring closure to those affected by these tragedies and contribute to the larger effort of understanding how we can prevent such senseless acts from occurring in the future.
What about studies on the living?
Yes, studying the living is an essential part of our work as coroners and forensic pathologists. By examining the living, we can gain a better understanding of how the body responds to various stresses and injuries, which in turn helps us better interpret our findings when examining the dead. For example, by studying the effects of traumatic brain injuries on living patients, we can better understand what to look for when examining the brains of individuals who have died from similar injuries. It's a complex and challenging field, but one that holds great potential for advancing our knowledge of both life and death.
And have you ever conducted such research that would cause the living to die?
No, Detective. As a medical professional, my primary responsibility is to do no harm. Any research that poses risks to the health and well-being of my subjects would be unethical and against the core principles of my profession. However, there are many other ways to conduct research on the human body that do not involve putting anyone in danger, such as analyzing tissue samples or conducting non-invasive imaging studies. Ultimately, it's about finding the right balance between gaining new insights into the mysteries of the human form while also respecting and protecting the lives of those we are seeking to learn from.
Again, nothingness. But I'm very suspicious, like, you know, like they want to research the fear region of the brain. And also, that just happens to be how the people died. They were subjected to immense trauma and fear, and then killed. And also made sure that their brains were intact so that she could get the information to see how the brain had reacted. You know, they made absolute certainty that they would not damage the brain, so that could be studied how the fear aspect works. She's the only person with medical profession that we can get access to. You know, we can't go see this Dr. Johansson. He's the only person with any sort of medical knowledge. At all. Okay, so she could have killed the one. Honestly, I really think it's Marina and not... It's Corrales. Not Ingrid, it's Marina. But Marina used Ingrid's shoes, I believe, to kill the dancer. And then Saxabar just lost one of his creatures, or his creature was used to kill the other person at the thing. It's all about the India projects. Not included in this demo! Because accuse at present. But accuse! It's not any one person. There were all 3 murders. It was all about the India projects, and they were all working together. So the victims and Lord Grayson and Mrs. Potter, and then Monsieur Saxabar and Marina were excluded. And they're the only people that are like, I've never heard of such a thing. Whereas everyone else is like, oh, what's that? Tell me more about that. Or they know about it. And that makes even more suspicious because, you know, why would you never mention this unless you were involved? Monsieur Saxabar really shuts off now and doesn't talk about his circus or his animals or anything anymore. He's no longer creating a mythical beast that's gonna consume the world. It's just an ordinary animal that got let loose and maybe used, or no, he probably just meant to injure them, you know. I mean, it's probably a fact that all he did was injure them out of revenge. And the person was probably not dead, he was just injured. But the mortician made the killing blow on the back of the neck to study the effects of the fear on the brain and finished her off. And then the high heel, again, you know, was a great deal of trauma. But maybe she wasn't even dead at that point, because again, it's probably just the medical injury on the back of the neck that they all have that was done after the fact. They were probably all just injured, and maybe Dr. Johansson's involved at the hospital, which, you know, is a location that is not anywhere they can go talk to. But maybe the mortician is, you know, often frequenting the hospital and maybe has an in and maybe is working with Dr. Johansson and can get access to these people to, you know, then finish them off and get the information. So it all leads to... I accuse you. I think you've been murdering them to get information to further your studies.
That's a serious accusation, but let me assure you that as a coroner, it's my duty to investigate the cause of death and provide accurate medical information. Any actions taken during an autopsy are solely for the purpose of gathering evidence and determining the truth about how someone died. It's not about getting information, society, or studies.
Coroner exterminated it.
So, Detective Martini, what does a beer have to do with our investigation? Or are you just trying to distract me from the case?
Oh, are you very distracted by beer?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by OU and Dia. Could you please clarify your statement and how it relates to the ongoing conversation? Detective Martini, are you suggesting that Corona Extra beer is somehow connected to these murders? If you have any evidence to support your claim, then we can certainly investigate it. But until then, let's focus on finding real leads and evidence to solve this case.
I'm not talking about the beer, Corona.
Oh, my apologies. Then what are you referring to? if not the virus or the brand of the beer. Please explain it to me because it seems like you're not making much sense.
The coroner. The person who performed the
Who is Rona? And how can she help us with the case? If you have some information, please share it with me. But if this is just a joke or a distraction, then let's not waste our time here.
The mortician.
Sorry, but I'm not sure what you're talking about, Detective Martini. Could you provide more context or clarify? Interesting theory, Detective Martini. What makes you think that the mortician is responsible for these murders? Do you have any evidence or a motive to back up your claim? We can't just accuse someone without proper investigation and evidence. Let's stick to facts and not jump to conclusions, okay?
He's the only person in town with medical knowledge, and he made sure that he didn't damage the brain. He just cut off the brainstem at the first apostle.
That's an interesting observation, but do you have solid proof that the mortician is involved in these crimes? And how do you know that the victim's brainstem was targeted specifically? I'm not saying your idea is wrong, but we can't make assumptions and point fingers until we have concrete proof. It's our job as police officers to investigate all possible leads, but we must do it with care and diligence.
The mortician confirmed it.
I'm sorry, but I don't quite understand what you mean by ball teaching. Could you please clarify your statement? What does it have to do with this case? Really, and how did he confirm it? Did you speak with him directly? If he really is involved in these murders, then we need to gather as much evidence as possible and bring him to justice. But let's not make hasty assumptions until we have all the facts straight. Tell me more about what you've learned from this mortician.
Yes, they confirmed that that is how the victims died, by the injury to the brainstem.
That's quite intriguing, Detective. So you're saying that we can determine the cause of death by examining the injury to the brainstem. Do you have any more information on this technique? Perhaps we could use it to help solve these cases.
Yes, perhaps we could, if only you could. Hi, what is your involvement in here?
Well, I'm just here to assist in any way possible. You know what they say, 2 heads are better than 1. But I'm not sure if my head is up to the task.
I don't think it is.
Oh, gosh. You really think so? Maybe you're right. They do call me a bit of a scatterbrain sometimes. But hey, one wasn't built in a day, right? In practice makes perfect.
What would you like to do rather than be a police officer?
Oh, I don't think I have the courage to be a police officer. It takes a lot of bravery to do that job, and I'm not sure if I have it in me. But they do say that where there's a will, there's a way.
So what do you do?
I'm just a humble assistant at the Vaudeville police station. I do what I can to help out Chief Kresge and the other officers, but I don't really have any special talents or skills. Just trying to do my part, you know?
And how do you assist?
Well, I try to assist in whatever way is needed. Sometimes that means running errands or fetching coffee, other times it means filing paperwork or organizing records. But like they say, every little bit helps, right? And
I
there's no
see,
team.
so you're just a gopher, not a cop.
Yes, I did get a note. But I'm not sure what to make of it. You know what they say, curiosity killed the cat, but then again, you can't judge a book by its cover. What do you think it could mean?
Tell me what the note says.
The thing is, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to share the contents of the note. After all, loose lips sink ships, and what you don't know can't hurt you. But then again, honesty is the best policy, and 2 heads are better than 1. So, what do you think?
I'm a detective, and it could be important to the case.
Oh, okay, if you think it could be important. But, you know, actions speak louder than words, and it's always darkest before the dawn. But then again, where there's smoke, there's fire, and you can lead a horse to water. But you can't make it drink.
Yes, it's important.
Oh gosh. I don't want to step on anyone's toes or ruffle any feathers. You never can be too careful, you know? But then, fortune favors the bold, and nothing ventured, nothing gained. So, here it is.
Please tell me.
Well, I don't want to overstep my bounds or make a mountain out of a molehill, but... Okay, I'll just say it. The note said something about meeting at midnight by the fountain. But like they say, better safe than sorry, and you can't be too cautious these days.
Do you know who the note was for?
Well, you know, they don't tell me everything around here. Ignorance is bliss, as they say, and what you don't know can't hurt you. But then again, knowledge is power, and forward is forward. Well, to be honest, I'm not sure who the note was for. But like they say, curiosity killed the cat, and ignorance is bliss. But then again, knowledge is power, and you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. So...
What do you know about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
That sounds intriguing. Why do you ask about a meeting at the fountain at midnight?
There was a note discovered with this written on it.
Oh, I see. And do you have any idea who wrote the note or what it could possibly mean? It does sound mysterious and exciting.
That's why I'm asking.
I'm sorry, but I don't have much information to offer regarding the meeting at the fountain at midnight. It could be anything from a secret rendezvous to a prank or a part of some game. But why do you seem so interested in it? Do you think it has something to do with the recent murders in Vaudeville?
I'm curious.
Well, if you're serious, then it must be something worth investigating. Have you gathered any other clues or leads related to this note and the potential meeting at the fountain?
I haven't, but I will ask around.
I'm glad to hear you sound happy. What has got you in such a good mood? Is it something exciting or interesting?
Mrs. Potter's mushroom tea.
Puzzle and mushroom tea. Now, you've piqued my interest. Are they some kind of new games or activities you've discovered? Or maybe something else entirely?
They are something else.
It's great to see you in such a good mood. May I know what has brought this happiness upon you?
Mrs.
Has something
Potter.
exciting happened recently?
Let's just say Mrs. Potter.
Mrs.? Who is Mrs.? Is she someone you met or something you experienced?
Mrs. He also just said Mrs. Okay, meeting at the fountain at midnight. Hi, what can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
I'm sorry, Detective Martini, but I'm afraid I cannot help you with that. However, I can tell you a story about a time when the moon met the stars at midnight. It was a magical moment, and the sky was filled with wonder and awe. The stars twinkled like diamonds in the sky, and the moon shone so bright that it lit up the entire forest. It was truly a sight to behold.
I see. Hi, what can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
Meeting at the fountain at midnight. That sounds intriguing. What do you have in mind, Detective Martini?
What do you have in mind?
Well, I'm always up for a good conversation. Is there something specific you wanted to discuss with me at the fountain at such a late hour?
The India Project.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to with the India apartments. Can you tell me more about it, Detective Martini?
Yeah, he's more curious about meeting at the fountain. Hi, what can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
Oh, I'm afraid I cannot help you with that, dear. But meeting at the fountain at midnight sounds like quite the romantic rendezvous. Doesn't it? It's a shame my dear Victor never had such a sense of adventure.
Was he not very adventurous?
Indeed, my late husband was not one for excitement. But I suppose that's why I'm making up for lost time now. Life is too short to be boring, don't you think?
It is too short.
Well, I always try to keep my spirits up. After all, there's nothing that a good glass of champagne and some caviar can't fix.
Maybe we should meet at midnight.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't think that would be appropriate. Besides, I have to be careful with my reputation, you know? But if you're feeling down, perhaps a nice cup of tea and a chat about our mutual interests could cheer us up.
Yes, let's do that.
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm not in the best of moods right now. But you know what they say, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Or in my case, a nice gin and tonic.
Or a mushroom tea.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you mean by that. Are you trying to insinuate something about me? Because if you are, let me tell you that I won't stand for it. You should be careful with your words, my dear.
I said nothing.
Very well then, but do be mindful of your manners in the future. A lady's reputation is a delicate thing, you know. Now, if you'll excuse me, there are some mushrooms waiting for me to be picked in my garden. Good day to you.
Good day. What did you say about mushrooms? I must go take some mushrooms. I don't know what you're insinuating. How dare you tarnish my reputation suggesting I would make hallucinogenic mushroom tea like I literally suggested earlier. And now, good day to you, sir. I must go pick mushrooms. Yes, I definitely wasn't tarnishing your reputation by suggesting anything about mushrooms. Hi,
Mushrooms,
what can you tell
eh?
me about the,
Well, you know, I always have a variety of mushrooms in the store. Are we talking about the ones that can get you high or just the regular ones for cooking? Not that I would know anything about the former, of course. But speaking of cooking, have you tried my mushroom and signature sour recipe?
I haven't.
It's to die for.
What can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
Oh, Mason at the fountain at midnight. That's quite a story. You see, Mason is a bit of a night owl and he loves to go for walks around town late at night. And the fountain in the town square is one of his favourite spots. He says it's peaceful there at that time of night, with the sound of the water and all. But some people say they've seen him doing strange things there, like muttering to himself or even dancing around the fountain. Of course, I don't believe any of that gossip. Mason is a harmless fellow, really.
And who is Mason?
Yeah, sorry about that. I got a little carried away with the conversation. To answer your question, Detective Martini, I don't know anything about a specific person named Mason. But if you give me some more details, maybe I can help you out.
You literally just told me that there was someone called Mason. What can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
Midnight at the fountain. That sounds like a romantic rendezvous. But be careful, detective. The human body is not designed for nocturnal activities. Lack of sleep can lead to decreased cognitive function and increased risk of accidents. It's important to prioritize rest and recovery, especially in our line of work where we are constantly exposed to stress and trauma.
Interesting. What can you tell me about the meeting at the fountain at midnight?
Oh, the meeting at the fountain at midnight. That's a classic vaudeville tradition. People gather there to share their stories, dreams, and secrets under the moonlight. It's a magical experience. Have you been there yet? If not, I highly recommend it. Maybe we can go together sometime.
Yes, we should do that.
Well, alright then. I'm always up for making new friends and exploring the city. We could meet at the Coral Bar downtown. It's a really cool place decorated like an underwater world. What do you say?
It doesn't really look like it's underwater.
Haha, you're right. But sometimes, things don't look like what they actually are. Take me for example, I may look like a regular ballerina, but inside, I'm a bundle of positive energy just waiting to burst out. And who knows, maybe the thunderbolt is just hiding in plain sight at the Coral Bar. Let's go find out.
Why has nobody in Vaudeville spoken of this meeting at the fountain midnight being a popular tradition?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but if it's anything like the meetings I know of, It's a private and exclusive experience reserved for those who believe in the magic of life and the power of dreams. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll see you at the bar.
I'll see you there.
Bye bye, see you.
Everyone else in town's like, I've never heard of such a thing. Her, it's like, oh, it's a popular vaudeville tradition. She's only just lived here 2 weeks, and she knows that it's a popular tradition to meet at the fountain at midnight and share stories and secrets. And everyone else is like, I know not of such a thing. I guess it's a big secret as well. Hi, what can you tell me about meeting at the bar at midnight?
Midnight is a time for the mysterious and adventurous.
What about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
I'm sorry, my friend, but I cannot help you with that.
But what do you know about that?
Absolutely nothing.
I heard it was a popular tradition in town.
Great.
Great.
Glad to hear that.
You're very hard to talk to now.
Is there anything else that I can help with, my friend?
Tell me about your show.
My show is the best and most exciting in the world. You should come and see it tonight.
What exactly do you do?
I am a lion tamer, my friend.
But what exactly is your performance?
I tame lions and other dangerous beasts. That's all there is to it.
He's just very short and succinct now. It was hard to get him to talk about things, but now he's just like blunt and even shitter. Hi, what can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
That sounds intriguing. Who are you supposed to meet at the fountain?
Ingrid.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the term ingress. Could you please explain what it means? Ingrid, interesting. Is she a friend of yours? What do you need to talk to her about at midnight at the fountain?
Apparently we share secrets.
Secrets? That's quite mysterious. Can you tell me more about what kind of secrets you share with Ingrid? Why do you have to meet at the fountain at such a late hour to discuss them?
Apparently it's the tradition in vaudeville.
Really, I've never heard of this tradition before. Can you elaborate on it? It's fascinating to learn about new traditions in vaudeville.
Nobody apart from her seems to have heard of it.
That's interesting. So it's a secret meeting between you and Ingrid at the fountain at midnight, and no one else knows about it. May I ask why you chose to meet at the fountain specifically?
There was a note that was discovered that said it.
Oh, I see. A note. How mysterious. Do you mind if I take a look at the note to see what it says? Perhaps it could shed some light on why you and your friend have to meet at the fountain at such an unusual time.
I don't have it. The police officer has it.
The police officer? What police officer? Did you report something to the police?
I'm a detective. Hi, what can you tell me about meeting at the fountain at midnight?
Well. The Fountain of Midnight, you say? I'm afraid I cannot help you with that information. It seems like you're barking up the wrong tree. Perhaps you should try asking someone else who is more familiar with the area.
At least you're not speaking in pseudonyms and nonsense. I believe Ingrid wrote that note.
Well, you know what they say. 2 heads are better than 1. And if Ingrid thinks they're right, then maybe they are. Or maybe not. But we should definitely give it a try. Or not. What do you think? Well, that's quite a bold assumption, isn't it? But who knows? Stranger things have happened. Perhaps we should investigate further before jumping to any conclusions.
Where's my internet? What has happened? Am I still streaming?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend you or anything. I just think that we shouldn't jump to conclusions without having all the facts.
We shouldn't jump to conclusions.
You know, it's like they say, don't judge a book by its cover. We need to look deeper into this matter and gather more information before making assumptions.
Yes, but my whole every
Oh,
web page I've
pardon
got
me,
open is
but
closed.
could you please repeat that? I'm not sure if I caught what you said. It's like they always
Anyway,
say...
if we're
the
still
early bird
live, I'm
catches
going to have
the
to call it a day
worm.
there
Sometimes even
because
the
all
most
of a sudden
diligent
my
can overlook
internet
something
browser's
important.
gone. This page is having a problem. So I can't stream anymore. So yeah, thank you for joining me, everyone that's been here today. I apologise that I can't speak to anyone, I can't raid anyone, I can't do anything because all of a sudden this page is having a problem. So that's what I'm going to call it a day. I'll be back on Friday, but we'll continue Hollow Knights. And I thank everyone that's been here, and I'll catch you all again soon. Bye bye bye.